Empire of Steel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 is Luluo from Dengzhou. Only Xiao Ming and Zun Xingcheng were left in the council chamber of the governor's mansion while drawing the drawings. Xiao Ming explained to Zun Xingcheng how to build the outer city wall. First of all, this city wall will not be solid. Since it is to be built, it must be built as a war fortress. Therefore, it is a city wall rather than a war fortress. Generally speaking, this city wall is still a traditional city wall shape, but the outer city wall will be replaced by a concrete structure. The inner city wall is hollow, but the height of the city wall 5 meters above the ground will be filled with soil and compacted. It not only saves costs, but also can achieve the situation that the outside is destroyed, and the inside will not be broken through, and above 5 meters, hollow rooms will be built, and holes just enough for spears to stick out will be left on the outer walls of these rooms. During the war, soldiers can kill the climbing barbarian soldiers through these holes. The height of this floor is about 2.8 meters, followed by the third and fourth floors. On the fifth floor, the hole will expand and become a hole where the artillery can stick out, but people cannot enter. From this floor, the artillery base is installed on the floor, which is reserved for the erection of artillery. Such a structure leaves some holes for spearmen indirectly. In general, the height of this city wall is the same as the old city wall, which is basically about 20 meters, which is already a very high city wall. After the design was announced, Zun Xingcheng looked excited. I am afraid that even if the barbarians come to such a solid city wall, they will only be amazed if it is built. Kangzhou City will at least not have the same brutal fighting as last time. Xiao Ming said the memory of the last war seemed to be still in front of him. Zun Xingcheng nodded. It's just, Your Highness, I'm afraid you have to go to the site to guide the construction of such a complex project in person. Otherwise it's just talk on paper, and the lower officials are powerless if you don't tell me about it. I have to save you from building a bean-curd slag project. Now I tell you to prepare slaves, cement, stones, wooden boards and other materials in advance. Xiao Ming said this concrete structure is actually not complicated. It mainly lies in the ligation of steel bars and the support of wooden formwork. For a craftsman who is proficient in woodworking, this is no problem. The only thing that is more expensive is the rebar. However, at this stage, Xiao Ming can't produce steel bars with modern craftsmanship, so he can only let the iron and steel workshop imitate them as much as possible. After all, the wisdom of working people is unlimited. After explaining that Zun Xingcheng had prepared materials in advance, Xiao Ming returned to the palace. At this meeting, there were still a lot of problems on the fiefdom, but at least one thing was that now the people at least have surplus grain in their hands, and they are not worried about not having food. But apart from the staple food, the people didn't have anything to eat, let alone other cash crops, and this is also the next problem he needs to solve. After all, the industry will still need a lot of raw materials in the future, such as cotton, silk, hemp and other crops. Thinking of this, Xiao Ming thought of tune oil again. This kind of paint specially designed to provide waterproofing to ships is also rare in his fiefs, and he has to spend money to buy it from other places. It's really not easy to develop this industry. Xiao Ming sighed and understood how great a complete industrial system is. This is not at all like he is now either lacking this material or lacking that part. Back in the dormitory, Xiao Ming picked up the pen and drew architectural drawings. The architectural drawings were divided into 4 categories: general drawing, concrete structure drawing, steel structure drawing, and node drawing. The reason why he wants to be so professional is to lay a foundation for the construction industry in Kangzhou. In modern times, the country is known as the first construction country, and he must start to establish this prestige from now on. After tossing for a whole day, he basically drew the drawings at night, but his hands were very tired and sore. Your Highness, why haven't you eaten lunch yet? When Luluo came in with dinner, she saw that Xiao Ming didn't eat lunch, and said angrily. Xiao Ming smiled and said, I forgot about it for a while. His Royal Highness is forgetting to eat and sleep, but this is an important government affair, and the body should not be forgotten. Luluo said with concern. In a year's time, Xiao Ming and the 2 girls got along more and more naturally. He said, I know, you are as long-winded as Aster. Now Luluo is very timid. She seldom spoke in front of Xiao Ming before, but now she is more and more daring, but Xiao Ming likes it a lot. A stuffy guard is still very boring. Picking up the new meal to take away, Luluo suddenly remembered something and said, Your Highness, is this loom ready? Sister Aster and I have already been to the textile workshop. If the textile machine can arrive, we will be ready to go nearby. The county town has found some ingenious girls to work in the textile mill in a few days. When I come back from Dengzhou, the equipment company seems to have made a mistake in the production of textile machines. I have to go and see for myself. Xiao Ming was a little depressed before he went to Chang'an. He asked the equipment department to handle this matter, but Xiao Ming was not there. It was the first time that these craftsmen produced textile machines, and there was still a problem. His Royal Highness is going to Dengzhou again? Luluo's expression was a little wrong. Xiao Ming asked. Yes, what's wrong? Go back to your highness. Luluo was a Dengzhou native before she entered the palace. Later, she was sold to Chang'an and was taken into the palace by the empress. It's more than 10 years later. Are you from Dengzhou? Xiao Ming said dumbly. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Your highness has never asked. Luluo whispered. Xiao Ming smiled and said, this king has ignored it. Since you are from Dengzhou, what do you know about Dengzhou, and where are your parents? I can take it home when I go to Dengzhou this time. Speaking of this, Luluo's eyes turned slightly red, and she said, Your Highness, Luluo's parents were fishing at sea in the early years, and they were both killed by Japanese pirates at sea. It was for their parents that year that Luluo sold her body for some silver taels. If you say relatives, I am afraid that only one elder brother is still alive now, but at that time my elder brother insisted on going to sea to avenge his parents, and now he does not know his life or death. Finally, Luluo cried softly. Every woman who sells herself has a tragic history. Otherwise she wouldn't be sold at a young age, he said. In that case, you can go with me to Dengzhou. First, you are familiar with Dengzhou, and you may be able to help this king. Second, you can also go back to your hometown to visit. Thank you, Your Highness, then I'll go back and clean up now. Luluo said gratefully. Luluo had never dared to mention this before, because the slaves who sold themselves could no longer have any contact with the family. If Xiao Ming's temperament was easygoing, she would not dare to mention it. Looking at Luluo, who was jumping out like a deer, Xiao Ming couldn't help shaking his head. When he went to Dengzhou this time, things might not be too simple. Chapter 227 Arrest. Outside Dengzhou City, Yang Changai frowned as he looked at the vast coast. This endless sea and the salty and wet sea breeze are what he needs to face after he succeeds as the governor of Dengzhou. Since the salt transport department is located in Dengzhou, his burden is even heavier. In addition to approving the monthly amount of salt to be reported to King Zhao, he also has a headache for this all-pervasive private salt dealer among the 6 prefectures. Dengzhou has the smallest number of people, with only about 100,000 households. These 100,000 households are also distributed in various counties outside Dengzhou. The population of Dengzhou City is only about 50,000 households, with a population of tens of thousands, and many of these people make a living by going out to sea to fish. After all, there is a vast sea outside the city of Dengzhou. It's just that the traces of Japanese pirates on the sea have increased in recent years, and many fishermen who go out to sea have been killed, which makes some fishermen dare not go out to fish again. However, the fishermen who are used to living on the sea do not want to farm, so the implementation of this law in Dengzhou is not very satisfactory, especially in a village called Yute near the sea. Because the village is close to the sea, there is no arable land around the village, and the allocated arable land is too far. These people are unwilling to go, and they still risk fishing in the coastal waters. At the same time, some daring people in the village also engage in the business of selling private salt. Selling illicit salt in Deu country is a serious crime of beheading. If there are more illicit salt dealers, less salt is sold by the government, which will seriously affect the annual turnover of the salt transport division, and this is the last thing he wants to see. He is a native of Dengzhou, and his original position was Dengzhou Bijia, but after the Dengzhou wealthy family was eradicated, he, a humble official without a wealthy background, was promoted to Dengzhou prefect. He went straight to King Qin overnight. He was naturally grateful to King Qi. After taking office, he was also diligent in government affairs and did not dare to slack off. Therefore, the matter of the private salt seller must be resolved for him, so as to be worthy of King Qi's trust. Just after dealing with these smugglers for half a year, he still did not catch them, but so far, he has basically figured out that many of the members of this private salt dealer are from Yute village. In order to catch the leader of the smuggling salt, a man named Yu Yun, he hesitated for 3 days, and finally made up his mind to force these smugglers out. Master Chief Inspector, we really don't know Yu Yun, so just let us go. At this time, Yute village was surrounded by hundreds of Dengzhou Corps. and more than 300 villagers in the entire village were gathered together. HMPH, the facts are all there, and you are still arguing. The household register in Dengzhou clearly records that Yu Yun is from your Yutei village, but now you say you don't know. Yang Chengai held a household register in his hand. He continued, there was news from King Zhao a few days ago that King Qi will arrive in Dengzhou in the near future. If you count the days, it will arrive in the next 2 days. This official's kindness has not been used, but you have repeatedly shielded Yu Yun. Today, this king has to escort you all back and interrogate them one by one. As soon as the words fell, Yang Chengai waved his hand, and the Dengzhou soldiers immediately stepped forward to detain the villagers. At this moment, a Governor Deng Shi suddenly came on his horse, and when he arrived, he said to Yang Chengai, Inspector Fang, His Highness is here. What? So fast? Yang Chengai frowned. Yes, His Highness and Pang Changshi came on horseback, which is naturally a lot faster. Now this private salt seller has no eyes, how should we explain to His Highness? Governor Deng Shi looked sad. Yang Chengai sighed, how else can I explain? Take all these villagers away and ask, I can only tell the truth after all. Yang Chengai went to Dengzhou City at this time. In the Dengzhou government office, Xiao Ming and Pang Yukin were sitting and drinking tea, with Luo serving by Xiao Ming's side. That's true, Yang Chengai. He knew that His Highness was coming, but he ran away without a trace. Pang Yukin complained. Xiao Ming smiled, it's okay, this is the most important thing in government affairs. Among the 6 states this year, it is said that Dengzhou's money and grain has changed from the bottom to the 3rd place. It seems that Yang Chengai is right to be promoted as Royal Highness. This Yang Chengai is not bad, but the money and grain are in the warehouse, and it has a great relationship with the Salt Transport Division. Otherwise, Dengzhou will still be ranked at the bottom. That's true, but Dengzhou has great potential. The shipyard is here now. In the future, this king will also plan to build a naval base here, plus a large wharf. In the next year, this Dengzhou will prosper. On the way here, Xiao Ming and Pang Yukin also stopped and went to inspect the living conditions of the people in Dengzhou. Generally speaking, Baeksan in Dengzhou is more embarrassed than other states, and this feeling is even stronger after entering Dengzhou City. Not only the dilapidated city walls of Dengzhou City, but also in this place with a length and width of several kilometers, the population in the city is also very complete, the market is even rarer, and the clothes of the people are also very ragged. This Yang Chengai is really lucky. With His Highness taking care of him, this Dengzhou will definitely fly up in the future. Pang Yukin said as the two were talking. There was a sudden noise outside the door, and then Yang Chengai and Governor Deng Shi walked in quickly. His Royal Highness, the lower official is guilty. As soon as Yang Chengai came in, he immediately knelt on the ground. Xiao Ming was a little puzzled. He said, Fang Inspector, what's wrong with you? Yang Chengai said with guilt, Your Highness, until now, the lower officials have not caught the leader of the private salt dealer. I am truly ashamed of Your Highness and ashamed of Pang Changshi. Hearing this, Xiao Ming and Pang Yukin looked at each other, and Pang Yukin said, Inspector Fang, this time, His Highness and I are not here to investigate this private salt trader, but for other things, not because of the smuggled salt dealer. Yang Chengai breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He thought that Pang Yukin and Xiao Ming had come in person for the purpose of private salt dealers, so he made this decision in a hurry and arrested all the people of Yutei village. Xiao Ming nodded, exactly, this time, I came here to find some people who are proficient in water for this king's fleet, and you, a native of Dengzhou, need help in this matter. This. Yang Chengai looked surprised. He said, His Royal Highness, if you want to say that this place has the best people, of course it is a place called Yutei village. The salt sellers have all been arrested by the lower officials and are now being sent to prison. What? Pang Yukin's expression suddenly changed when he heard the words, and he said angrily, Yang Chengai, how can you do this kind of bastard? So some people in the village are arrested indiscriminately. How do you let the people of Dengzhou think of the government? Yeah, what do you think of Your Highness? Chapter 228 Group Events. Pang Yukin's anger made the atmosphere in the Dengzhou government a little depressed. Yang Chengai said, Xiaoguan is also in a hurry, and Xiaoguan also has evidence that these people are shielding the salt seller. Hearing this, Xiao Ming said, the law does not blame the public. If it is handled so recklessly, it will only cause chaos among the people. And then, before he could finish this sentence, a policeman rushed in a panic and shouted, Fang Inspector, it's not good. A large number of people gathered in front of the Dengzhou prison and rushed into the cell to ask for someone. What? Yang Chengai was taken aback. He looked at Xiaoming. This really fulfilled Xiaoming's words. Pang Yukin pointed at Yang Chengai and said, You have made a big disaster. Frowning his brows, Xiaoming stood up and said, Stop kneeling, let's go and see what's going on. After living in this world for more than a year, Xiaoming also has some understanding of this era. The people are very obedient, but this kind of obedience is only based on giving the people a way to survive and will not harm their interests. Violating these two rules, the government office will understand the sturdiness of the people. Although Xiaoming has issued a lot of decrees during this period, due to the problems of local operation, there are still some incidents of people gathering and making trouble. When the group arrived at the prison, they saw thousands of people gathered together, and some people were pushing and shoving with Zhu Kui, and they were about to rush in to save people. There were 500 cavalry soldiers following Xiaoming this time, and they immediately rushed over on their horses. Hearing the rumbling horses' hooves and seeing the cavalry in silver armor appear, these people immediately stepped back a few steps, their voices quieted down. And instead they turned their attention to Xiaoming and the others who were on the horse. Yang Chengai got off his horse first. He looked at the people blocking the gate of the prison and said, Bold, who instructed you to make a riot in Dengzhou prison? Are you trying to rebel? At this time, Yang Chengai's heart was bright, and all the villagers in Yute village were arrested. Now that so many people came out to ask for help, there must be someone who secretly made money for these people to come and make a big presence. Your government officials arbitrarily arrest people and don't give us a way to survive. Is there still a king's law in this world? A commoner in the crowd shouted. After this shout, the crowd fell silent again, and most people still turned their attention to the murderous 500 cavalry. Xiaoming stepped forward at this time and said, I am Xiaoming, king of Qi. Whoever found these people, they will stand up if they are heroes. In the Battle of Kangzhou, there were also many soldiers from Dengzhou, and they fought bravely to kill them one by one. The enemy, you are not afraid of death, but you don't seem to hide your head and show your tail like this, like a coward. Once here, Xiaoming realized that most of the people here were just bought by money, because in the eyes of these people, he could not see anger, but only timidity. If this is about them, why should they be so trembling? King Qi, it turned out to be King Qi, that's right. The Kingzhou army wears this kind of armor. I didn't expect King Qi to come to Dengzhou. A burst of whispers came to mind in the crowd. At this time, there was a sudden change in the crowd, and a dozen young people came out. The first person was in his 20s and had dark skin, which was caused by the sea breeze all the year round. I am Yu Yun, your highness, now I am a hero? Yu Yun said loudly. Yang Chengai said with great hatred, Bold thief, what qualifications do you have to call yourself a hero in front of his highness? Come here, take all the first-class people to me. The dozen or so young men behind Yu Yun immediately pulled out their machetes and protected Yu Yun in the middle. Feng Inspector, slow. Xiaoming shouted at this time. He walked in front of Yu Yun and said, So you are a private salt dealer in Dengzhou? His Royal Highness, there are many private salt sellers, and I'm just one of them. Why sell illicit salt? You can't fish at sea, you can only sell private salt to make a living. What's more, this sea salt is born from heaven and earth, and everyone in the world can use it. Why does it only need to be sold by the government and not allowed by our people? Yu Yun said confidently. As you said, then this king asks you, how many taels of silver did Yu Yun contribute to the military rations, forged artillery, and shells used in the Battle of Kangzhou? Xiaoming said with a smile, but this salt transport seek fills the treasury with 10,000 taels of silver every month. If everyone in the world agrees with you, where will the rations come from? Where will the artillery come from? Who'll defend against the barbarians? Besides, is the private salt you sold by Yu Yun for nothing, of the people? Xiaoming just used some aggressive tactics just now. He didn't expect this Yu Yun to actually come out. In this way, this Yu Yun is a hot-blooded generation, but there is still help. This Yu Yun was at a loss for words for a while, and after being silent for a while, he suddenly said angrily, Yes, I have nothing to say about the Battle of Kangzhou. Your Highness will protect the peace of the 6 states, but your Highness has thought about our people in Dengzhou before. We have been fishing in the sea for generations, but now we have been slaughtered by Japanese pirates. We have lost our ancestors' food business, and we don't sell smuggled salt. How can we survive? Nonsense. Didn't the government give you land for farming? You don't think about farming, but blame your Highness. Yang Chengai has always had a headache for these private salt dealers, and now he just wants to bring these people to justice. Yu Yun said, Our hands are used for rowing boats and casting nets, not for farming. How can we farm? And besides, these fields are so far from the village. How do we get there? Yang Chengai also scolded Yu Yun, but Xiaoming stopped him at this time and said, "You said that this king doesn't care about the lives of your people in Dengzhou. That's good. Now this king will give you a chance to give you a place to fish. Take it back. Are you willing? Snatch back the fishing spot?" Yu Yun smiled bitterly. "Your Highness, you may not have seen this gang of Japanese pirates. Their boats are taller than ours and have more sophisticated weapons and equipment. With only a dozen of us, how to get them out? What if this king gave you a big boat, and then summoned thousands of young people from the fishing village of Dengzhou, and then gave you equipment?" Xiaoming asked. Yu Yun looked at Xiaoming suspiciously and said, "Is this true, Your Highness, really?" Xiaoming said, "Will Your Highness not punish our sins? If you are willing to join this king's navy, this king will absolve you of your guilt." Xiaoming said the law must have nothing to do with human feelings, and he only mentioned the Battle of Kangzhou. Yu Yun and others dared to show up, indicating that they are not insidious and cunning people this time. It was just to save the villagers, and it seemed that Yu Yun was also affectionate and righteous. Now what he lacks the most is manpower. As a vassal king, he must have the mind of recruiting talents and cannot be limited to small details. Then from now on, our life is His Highness's. Selling illicit salt was originally a capital crime, but Xiaoming was extra generous at this time when he sold the private salt to the common people. He had long heard of King Qi's righteousness, and now he has seen it in person, and he surrendered in his heart. Chapter 229 The Trace of the Japanese Pirates. The gathered people gradually dispersed, and the people of Yute village in the prison came out one by one. Seeing Yu Yun, an old woman suddenly knelt on the ground and said to Yang Chengai, "Master Chief Inspector, this matter of selling illicit salt has nothing to do with Yu Yun. I ordered him to do it. The people in the village are all old and young. People who join the army, and those who go out to sea to fish are killed, and the rest of us, the immortals, can't farm at all, and we all rely on the sale of smuggled salt to exchange for some food. Mother, what are you doing? Your Highness has already forgiven us." Yu Yun was rather embarrassed. "What?" The old woman looked at the three people outside the door, two of whom he did not know, while Yang Chengai had a wry smile on his face. Seeing the old woman looking at him, Yang Chengai said with a wry smile, "Yu Yun is right. This is His Royal Highness King Qi. Thank His Highness if you want to thank him." The old woman turned to Xiaoming excitedly and was about to kowtow and salute. At this time, Xiaoming helped the old woman up and said, "You don't have to do this great gift. You can't live your life." The old woman was even more excited when she heard the words, "Is what Your Highness said true?" Xiaoming nodded at this time. Pang Yukan said, "Your Highness, this is not the place to talk. Let's go back to the government office." Dengzhou is not less complicated than Kangzhou. Yang Chengai came back to his senses immediately and said, "Your Highness, Pang Changshi is right. There are often pirates in Dengzhou city, so let's go back and talk about it." Letting the other villagers go back first, Xiaoming took Yu Yun and the old woman to the mansion. The group sat down again, and Xiaoming asked, "You are all from Dengzhou. Now tell this king about the situation in the sea near Dengzhou. Let's talk about it." Yu Yun said attentively. Not only was he forgiven for his crimes, but he also wanted to join the army. He was excited and wanted to express himself. "When my grandfather was fishing at sea, there were no Japanese pirates in this area. It was so rampant, but when the generation of Kaoman's father came, there were more Japanese pirates in the nearby waters, and later we often encountered Japanese pirates' ships when we went out to see His Royal Highness. According to the time, it is almost the same. The murder of the envoy from the Great Yu Kingdom to guerrilla happened more than 20 years ago." Pang Yukan said. Xiaoming nodded and asked, "What are these Japanese pirates? What about the boats they are on?" "These Japanese pirates are wearing clogs, their hair is standing up, their foreheads are bare, and their clothes are different from those in the Great Yu Kingdom." Yu Yun said. Xiaoming drew the appearance of the kimono with a pen and paper, and said, "Is it like this?" "That's right, it's this kind of clothes." Yu Yun pointed and said, "As for their boats, we call them Anzie boats. This kind of boat seems to cover the house and houseboat." Xiaoming knew this name. In the information of the technology library, there is a record of this Anzhi ship, and the appearance is the same as what Yu Yun said. After Yu Yun finished speaking, Yang Chengai said, "His Royal Highness, in addition to killing people at sea, these Japanese pirates often go ashore to loot. Our Dengzhou has also found traces of Japanese pirates several times, but the number is not large. But it is said that there are many Japanese pirates in the wealthy south. This is all because Dengzhou is poor. Otherwise how could these Japanese pirates let Deng Xiao go? Yu Yun said through gritted teeth. Then, the three asked Xiao Ming to talk about some matters at sea. Xiao Ming also asked some fishermen about the types of fish caught by fishermen. Due to the limitation of fishing level, fishermen can only catch some small fish, such as mingtai fish and other offshore fish. There are also abalone, but because abalone needs to be caught by diving, the output is very small in modern times. This generation of Deng Xiao is rich in abalone. Because it is difficult to transport and store, this abalone is definitely a luxury. Because of this, the fishermen can survive fishing. However, with the increase in the number of Japanese pirate ships in the offshore area, fishermen rarely venture to the sea to fish for abalone. Now Xiao Ming is facing many difficulties, and everything is in vain. Nowadays, the pressure of the northern barbarians makes it impossible not to devote too much energy to the construction of the navy. Therefore, the purpose of the Galen ship is not only to carry out ocean trade to obtain potatoes, etc. Crops are to drive out Japanese pirates in the coastal waters, and 10 years in the army, 100 years in the navy. This is not just a joke. People like Yu Yun still dare not leave the land too far when sailing at sea. In fact, why do Japanese pirates often appear here? The answer is obvious, because these Japanese pirates also travel along the coastline. Leaving the coastline, they are likely to sail into the vast sea and never come back. Therefore, when letting the fleet sail the ocean, Xiao Ming must teach these people how to identify the direction at sea, and this is a very deep knowledge. After a brief understanding of the situation in Deng Xiao and the sea, Xiao Ming said to Yu Yun, "You are more familiar with the fishing village in Deng Xiao than the governor, so you can cooperate with the governor to recruit crew members." "Yes, Your Highness, this question, but what if they don't want to? After all, they were frightened by the Japanese pirates." Yu Yun said. Xiao Ming smiled lightly. "It's okay, this king will not force you to join this king's navy, but you can take them to King Xiao with this king. If they see the battleship and are still leaving, this king will also just let them be. What do you say?" "Well, this is no problem," Yu Yun said excitedly. After talking about recruiting seamen, Xiao Ming thought of Luluo, and he said to Luluo behind him, "By the way, Luluo, which village are you from?" When he looked back, Luluo looked like she was about to cry. Luluo heard the words and said, "Your Highness, I am from Yutei village. Auntie, do you remember me? I am Meng Hikyo." At this time, the old woman returned to China, looked at Luluo, and said, "What did you say?" Luluo came to the old woman this time and said, "Auntie, I'm Meng Hikyo, Meng Kuo's daughter." Hearing this, Yu Yun looked incredulous and said, "Are you Kyo?" Luluo nodded and said, "Brother Yun, I'm Kyo." The old woman gradually became excited, and she said, "Are you really Kyo?" Luluo nodded again, and she said, "It's me, Auntie." "Brother Yun, where's my brother? Dead?" Speaking of this, Yu Yun's face suddenly darkened. The old woman looked at Luluo and seemed to see Luluo's appearance when she was a child. He angrily said to Yu Yun, "Don't talk nonsense, kidder. Your brother." Speaking of which, she seemed to be at a loss for words. Yu Yun said angrily, "It's better to die. Your brother joined the Japanese pirates, and now he is the leader of the Japanese pirates, an ungrateful bastard. You have the right to treat him dead." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. How is it possible? What my brother hates the most is the Japanese pirates. How could he be from the Japanese pirates? You are talking nonsense, Lulu shouted loudly. Seeing Lulu's sad look, Yu Yun's tone softened. He suddenly tore open his chest, and a long scar spread from his chest to his abdomen. He said, "This knife was cut by your brother, using a Japanese sword from the Japanese country." "Will I lie to you? How is that possible?" Luluo shook her head, tears streaming down her face. The old woman sighed, "Killer, since you sold your body, your brother's temperament has changed greatly. We didn't expect that he would finally be able to vote for the Japanese pirates. Now the villagers hate him when they mention him." Luluo became more and more sad when she heard the words, and suddenly ran out crying. Yu Yun stood up and wanted to chase after him, but after a moment of hesitation, he sat down. Now this Luluo is the maid next to King Qi. I wanted to bring Luluo back to find relatives, but I didn't expect such a result. Xiao Ming felt helpless. He said, "Yu Yun, go back and run around the surrounding fishing villages and try to find as many young people with good water skills as possible." "Yes, Your Highness. Yu Yun stood up excitedly, and then helped his mother out of the palace after Yu Yun left. Yang Chengai said, Your Highness, is it really appropriate to deal with Yu Yun this way? In this way, shouldn't other smugglers be more daring? Yang Chengai had been silent just now, but now he couldn't help speaking. Illegal salt traders must also distinguish between intentional and unavoidable acts. Those who make huge profits by selling illicit salt will naturally be severely punished, but people like Yu Yun who take risks for the sake of the village's livelihood must also be considered as appropriate. Think about it, and when this king is hiring, you also said that this Yu Yun is quite prestigious in this fishing village in Dengzhou. Pang Yukan also said, that's right, and His Highness motivated him with righteousness, and he came out immediately. At least it shows that this person still has national righteousness in his heart, not those thugs who are only for self-interest. Yang Chengai frowned and finally nodded. Xiao Ming's face then turned cold. Yang Chengai, do you know the guilt? The lower official is guilty. Yang Chengai naturally understood that Xiao Ming was prosecuting him for rashly arresting a villager and threatening Yu Yun. This kind of behavior could easily cause public anger. Although some of the people were bought by Yu Yun this time, some of them were still dissatisfied with the government's actions. Since I have been found guilty, this time I will impose a fine on you for half a year. Xiao Ming said, if it wasn't for this king's time to hire someone, I would have dismissed you. Yang Chengai smiled wryly and replied, yes, Your Highness. Rebuking Yang Chengai, Xiao Ming continued, where's the Dengzhou shipyard? You lead the way, let's go and see. Yes, Luluo was still crying sadly outside the door, and Xiao Ming couldn't comfort him now, so she had to go to Dengzhou to wait. First the three came out of Dengzhou city and walked 20 miles eastward along the coastline before arriving at Dengzhou shipyard. This is a vast bay, and the shipyard is built on the beach. At this time, the craftsmen are busy on the beach. His Royal Highness, this place is only 5 miles away from the Dengzhou camp. If there is any danger, the Dengzhou camp can come to help at any time, and there are 500 soldiers stationed in this shipyard to ensure the safety of the shipyard. Yang Chengai said, how many troops does the Dengzhou army have now? Xiao Ming asked Pang Yukan. We started conscription last year, and now there are about 3,000 people. Among the 6 states, the number is the smallest, and there is a shortage of armor, swords and alike. Pang Yukan said no, the number is still too small. In the future, Dengzhou will become the second most important town after Qingzhou, and the number of soldiers will be at least 20,000. Xiao Ming said. Yang Chengai said, His Royal Highness, Dengzhou has a population of only a few 100,000 people, and these 3,000 people are already quite a lot. If we recruit more labor, Dengzhou will not be able to develop. Since this is the case, then other states will be recruited. In short, we must ensure that the shipyard is safe. Xiao Ming said. Pang Yukan nodded. Although the Japanese pirates are not as bad as the barbarians, they are also extremely troublesome. If a large number of Japanese pirates land, it will be difficult to resist without enough soldiers. After turning around for a while on the shore, the three went to the shipyard to take a look. As Zhang Liang said, this shipyard can build ships at any time. After returning from the shipyard, Xiao Ming saw Luluo with red eyes in Xingyun. He said, don't be sad, maybe your brother also has his own difficulties. Luluo looked cold and said, His Royal Highness, no matter how difficult it is, he can't become a Japanese pirate. Both his father and mother died at the hands of the Japanese pirates. How can he recognize a thief as his father? If His Highness catches him in the future, please let Luluo kill him with his own hands. Xiao Ming looked at Luluo. This weak woman seemed to have become much stronger at this moment. He said, okay, if one day, this king will hand him over to you. Luluo nodded, trying to squeeze out a smile. Xiao Ming sighed, knowing that he wouldn't bring this girl here, and this kind of thing happened after staying in Dengzhou for 3 days. Yang Chengai and Yu Yun traveled all over the nearby fishing villages. Together, they gathered a total of 900 people, and this is all the young people in the fishing village who are willing to go to Qingzhou, and how much of these are left in the end depends on whether the Galen boat suits their tastes. With these 900 people, Xiao Ming returned to Qingzhou. At the shipyard, they saw the Galen boat parked on the beach. His Royal Highness, this is our future battleship? Yu Yun's eyes lit up. This was the largest ship he had ever seen. Yes, there are only 3 ships. The shipyard in Dengzhou will continue to produce Galen ships. Do you want to be the commander of this fleet? Xiao Ming asked with a smile. Me? Yu Yun said excitedly. Xiao Ming nodded. Yu Yun was able to sell private salt, and he was also a bold person. This is exactly the character Xiao Ming needs, so that he can also have the courage to go on a voyage. Think. Yu Yun's eyes seemed to flash with brilliance. and he could already imagine how prestige it would be to command such a magnificent fleet. After admiring the Galen boat on the beach for a while, Xiao Ming allowed them to get on the boat for a visit, and the 900 people were all excited. After Yu Yun and the others had learned about the Galen ship, Xiao Ming asked, "Those who are willing to stay will be on the ship, and those who are unwilling to stay can get off the ship and take the bundles back." As soon as his voice fell, more than 900 people fell into silence. After coming over for a while, one person chose to disembark. Then came the second, the third, one after another. 200 people got off the boat. Yu Yun stood on the boat and said angrily, "You cowards, you don't even have the courage to protect your parents." Yu Yun, look down on you." Xiao Ming stopped Yu Yun and said, "Don't say that. From the beginning, this king said it was voluntary." "Yes, Your Highness." Yu Yun was still a little unhappy. 900 people left 700 people. At least these 3 Galen ships are enough. As for the future, when these 3 Galen ships arrive at Yangzhou Wharf to expel the Japanese pirates, there will naturally be enthusiastic young people to join the navy. As he was thinking, Pang Yukin's voice suddenly sounded under the boat, and he said, "Your Highness, the messenger of King Zhao has arrived." Chapter 231. The lion opens its mouth. The messenger of King Zhao? Pang Yukin nodded and said to Xiao Ming, "Yes, this person claims to be the eldest son of King Zhao, Zhao Yuanlian. It's him?" Xiao Ming pondered for a while and he said to Yu Yun, "You continue to follow Zhang Liang to understand the structure of the Galen ship and how to control the Galen ship. After that, someone will arrange accommodation for you. In the future, you will learn this sailing skill at Bowen College." "Your Highness, you don't need to learn this, we are all experts." Yu Yun said to himself, "Hey, don't talk about this big talk now. When this king teaches you what sailing is, you will know the difficulties of sailing." Xiao Ming said, leaving Yu Yun and others behind. Xiao Ming instructed to entangle the children of the fishing village who were unwilling to stay and let them go back on their own. He rode back to Prince Qi's mansion. At this time in Prince Qi's mansion, a young man who was slightly older than Xiao Ming was waiting in the main hall. Outside the main hall, the maple leaves in Prince Qi's mansion were as bright as sunset. Looking at the servants in the mansion, Zhao Yuanlian had a faint worry in his eyes. "His Royal Highness, this Qi Wangfu is much more shabby than our Liangzhou Wangfu, and this King Zhao is not much. I think the people in the city are not as good as the people in Liangzhou." Beside Zhao Yuanlian is a scribe in a gray long gown and a square-top scarf. He's Zhao Quan, a counselor under the King of Zhao. This King Zhao was plundered by the barbarians 3 years ago, and it would be a one-time thing to recover. In the past 3 years, there has been no trouble in the 6 states, and he has also eliminated the local nobles. It can be said that this Xiao Ming is extremely difficult. This time, the father specially explained that he must not be neglected. "After all, this time we are asking for him." Zhao Yuanlian said yes. The officer remembered it. Zhao Quan said the two were talking when suddenly they heard movement outside the door, but it was King Qi who walked in with a man who looked like a civil servant. "Yuanlian, long time no see." Xiao Ming shouted before reaching the door. Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan hurriedly greeted him and said with a smile, "Zhao Yuanlian sees His Highness, no ceremony." Xiao Ming helped Zhao Yuanlian and strode into the main hall. Zhan Xingcheng followed behind him and entered the main hall, signaling Zhao Yuanlian and the two to sit down. Xiao Ming asked with an interested look, "Yuanlian, we haven't seen each other for about 5 years. I remember the last time I saw you, when you entered the capital with King Zhao." "Exactly." Yuanlian was ignorant at that time and bumped into His Highness in the palace. "I hope His Highness will forgive me." Zhao Yuanlian said 5 years ago, he entered the palace with his father to face the Holy Spirit, and he was encountering Xiao Ming, who was scolded by Xiao Wangxun. He accidentally touched Xiao Ming at that time, and was scolded by Xiao Ming. They were both young and energetic at the time, and the two naturally refused to give in to each other, so they fought in the palace. Later, Xiao Ming was pulled out by Xiao Wangxun and beat aboard. If it wasn't for the artillery issue this time, his father would not have sent him to King Zhao in order to show his importance. After all, the two of them still had a festival, but looking at Xiao Ming's appearance now, he didn't seem to care. It doesn't matter, at that time. This king was ignorant, but Yuanlian laughed. Xiao Ming said, he knew the purpose of Zhao Yuanlian's visit, and after the greeting, he asked directly, "This time Yuanlian is sent to King Zhao, I don't know why?" Zhao Yuanlian said, "His Royal Highness, because of the artillery, above the court, the father promised that the northern vassal kings could purchase artillery from His Highness to defend against the barbarians." Just like His Royal Highness, now Zhao Di is also facing the threat of the barbarians, and Zhao Di is not a barbarian. It is the barrier to the north of the Great Yu Kingdom. I hope your highness can take care of the safety of the Great Yu Kingdom and sell the artillery to us. This artillery purchase was already within Xiao Ming's plan, but the artillery of the imperial army had not yet landed, so how could it be sold to King Zhao now? He said, my father and I have said this, and I will naturally follow the artillery matter, but now this king is producing artillery for the Forbidden Army. I am afraid that there will be no extra artillery for sale for the time being. Zhao Yuanlian smiled and said, His Royal Highness, how difficult is this? If your highness does not have enough manpower, why not sell the artillery technology to me, and return to Zhao to produce it ourselves this time? Zhao Yuanlian naturally negotiated with Xiao Ming for this artillery, and he naturally held several sets of methods in his hand. Yuanlian is joking. The emperor said very clearly at the court meeting that this artillery technology can only be controlled by me. It's because I don't believe you. It's just that the barbarians can't work seamlessly. If the artillery falls into the hands of the barbarians, I am afraid that Zhao Di will not even have the advantage of defending the city. Zhao Yuanlian rolled his eyes. Even though he knew it was impossible, he still wanted to try, and continued, Your Highness, if you sell us the artillery technology, we will naturally try to keep it secret, and the father promised to take 5,000 of good horses, 5 million taels of silver in exchange. I have to say that this price made Xiao Ming quite moved, but he could not hand over the artillery casting technology, although he knew that without high-quality steel, he couldn't forge artillery at the same level as him. But once the technology spreads, the quantity would be enough to make up for the quality gap. Yuanlian, it's not that this king disagrees, but if this artillery technology is leaked, the royal father will really kill me. Xiao Ming shook his head. Let's talk about other things. Xiao Ming refused again. This method seems to be unworkable. Zhao Yuanlian continued, in this case, whether your highness can provide artillery for the imperial army and Zhao Di at the same time, your highness does not know, since his highness repelled the barbarians. Now the barbarians seem to want to regain faith in Zhao Di. Recently, the barbarian cavalry has been active outside the city frequently. My father and I are quite nervous. This. Xiao Ming pretended to hesitate now that the iron mold casting technology has matured. The military workshop also has a group of professional craftsmen who make cannons. Whether the production can be increased depends only on whether the materials are sufficient, and he also wants to use this sale to expand the production scale of the military workshop. After all, if the military workshop can make money, it is natural to use this opportunity to expand the production line and maintain such a scale. Once the war comes, it will be as short as dumplings. A large number of artillery pieces were produced. However, Xiao Wangxun's emperor's order was ahead, and Xiao Ming did not dare to disobey. He pondered for a moment and said, I can provide the imperial army with the first batch of artillery pieces and then provide you with artillery pieces in the second month. Needed silver taels 1 month? Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan looked at each other. This is the shortest time. The artillery of the Forbidden Army must be the first to arrive. Xiao Ming said firmly. Zhao Yuanlian saw that Xiao Ming's tone was so strong, so he did not continue to entangle on this issue, but asked, in this case, Your Highness, how many silver taels does this artillery piece cost? This is not expensive, 20,000 taels of silver per door. Xiao Ming Lion said loudly. Chapter 233 Complicated Situation. The artillery training ground was filled with the smell of gunpowder, and the mud pits smashed by the shells were everywhere. Zhao Yuanlian glanced at the artillery, which was basically indistinguishable from 400 paces away, and then looked at the clay sculpture that fell to the ground. He was extremely shocked. He could already imagine how this incomparably powerful artillery killed dozens of charging cavalry in one shot on the Battle of Kang's. Zhao Yuanlian, you have also seen the effect. You should know better than me whether it is worth 20,000 taels of silver. It's not that this king is laughing at the black armored cavalry. 400 cavalry is really not as good as this king's artillery. Xiao Ming deliberately stimulated Zhao Yuanlian. Zhao Yuanlian was silent for a while, then said, Your Highness, this artillery is really powerful for no reason, but the price of this artillery is too high. Can we make it less? There's nothing I can do about this. Xiao Ming shook his head, with a firm attitude. This king can't do business at a loss, not to mention that even the court was unwilling to give this artillery, let alone other vassal kings. Don't think that this king does not knowing that you stopped the father and emperor from sending troops to support King Zhao. It is a righteousness that I am willing to sell artillery to you today. In doing business, it is natural to raise the price first and then slowly lower it. As the saying goes, it is better to buy than to sell well. This is the truth. The buyer never knows where the bottom line of the seller's profit is. Zhao Ming suddenly changed his face, which made Zhao Yuanliang a little embarrassed. He coughed and said, "Your Highness has misunderstood. We really have nothing to do with this matter. It's all those courtiers who are making trouble. The purpose of bringing up the old account is to raise the price. No matter how much Zhao Ming hates Zhao Wang and these people, he doesn't want to get along with Yinzi at this time," he said. "Then the king has the right and trusts Yuanlian, and the price is also low. I wonder how much you want to buy this time." Zhao Yuanlian looked at Zhao Quan at this moment, only to see Zhao Quan stretched out 2 fingers, secretly 20 guns. He said so little. Zhao Ming frowned. He looked at Zhao Yuanliang and Zhao Quan, and saw that the two of them looked a little different. He sneered inwardly. He understood. This King Zhao probably had the idea of imitating artillery, otherwise he would not have just purchased 20 artillery pieces. For the Langshao front line, at least 300 artillery pieces would be needed originally. If this number is enough, this king can sell you 15,000 taels. Since it's 20, it's really not worth it. 20,000 can't be less. After that, Zhao Ming turned around and left. Now artillery is the only one in his family, by love or not. When Zhao Ming walked away, Zhao Yuanliang said to Zhao Quan, "You really have the confidence to imitate this cannon, His Royal Highness. I was not sure at first, but now I have seen the appearance of this artillery, and I already have a certain degree of certainty in my heart. We have mastered the technology of producing firecrackers. This artillery is just thicker and longer. Wait for the first one. When the batch of artillery arrives, we will let the craftsmen produce it like this." Zhao Quan said, "Well, okay, what about this armor?" Zhao Yuanliang asked. The reason why he brought Zhao Quan this time is because Zhao Quan has an excellent memory and can remember things very quickly. "Don't worry, Shizi, it's alright," Zhao Quan said, nodding their heads. Zhao Yuanliang and Zhao Quan followed Zhao Ming back to the palace, agreeing to buy 20 artillery pieces at a price of 20,000 taels. "Then let's pick up the goods in Kingzhou in 2 months. Zhao Ming said, "No matter how small a mosquito is, it is still meat." With 20 artillery pieces of 400,000 taels of silver, he made a net profit of more than 300,000 taels of silver, which is the monthly income of the Chamber of Commerce. With this money, 2 more Galen ships can be built during this period of time. The construction of the Galen ship seemed to be silent, but in fact this Galen ship was the real big spender. "Yes, Your Highness," Zhao Yuanliang said. "In that case, we will not disturb Your Highness." After that, Zhao Yuanliang and Zhao Quan turned around and left the main hall. Looking at the back of the two, Zhao Ming showed a thoughtful look, and then he sent someone to call Li San over. "Li San, you sent someone to stare at Zhao Yuanliang and Zhao Quan. This king suspects that they have bad intentions, especially the equipment department and the military workshop. They must be watched. Besides, who did he contact in Kingzhou City? Report to me in detail." "Yes, Your Highness," Li San said solemnly. The number of businessmen traveling to and from Kingzhou has increased suddenly during this period of time. I have kept the secret guards vigilant, and found that some people are just under the guise of business, but they are actually spying. It seems that this artillery technology is being watched by many people. It's strange that these people don't use some tricks behind their backs. If they can get the artillery technology for nothing, why should they spend money to buy artillery from this king?" Zhao Ming said. After the artillery became famous in Chang'an, he knew that there would be many more spies in Kingzhou City. The purpose of these spies is one for artillery skills, and the other is to monitor him. Among them, other vassal kings, princes, and even his chief father Zhao Wangsun are indispensable. Zhao Wangsun was indeed very happy in this Kangzhou battle, but as a decisive emperor, he would also be afraid of Zhao Ming at this time. Li San nodded. "Your Highness, if that's the case, why don't you arrest all the sneaky people?" "No," Zhao Ming said. "These spies come to Kingzhou in the name of businessmen. If they act so recklessly, I am afraid that some people will take the opportunity to spread rumors, which will affect Kingzhou's business at that time. Without concrete evidence, you must not take it lightly. Get your hands on it." "Yes." Li San nodded. In the Wei family restaurant in Kingzhou City, Zhao Yuanliang and Zhao Quan went upstairs after ordering 2 rooms, and the guards who followed them stood at the door of the room. Entering the room, Zhao Yuanliang slapped the table abruptly. "This King Qi is so deceiving. My aunt heard news that the emperor had accidentally leaked his mouth. This artillery was sold to the imperial army for only 8,000 taels, but he had 2. If the door is sold to us, will we be fools? His Royal Highness, rest your anger. This is King Qi's territory, And there must be no ears or eyes of King Qi in this inn, Zhao Quan said. Zhao Yuanlian snorted coldly. This time, the royal father told us to do everything possible to get the artillery technology. What do you say, His Royal Highness? Don't worry, there are quite a few merchants from our Zhao land in Qingzhou. Some of them are your father's cronies. Your Highness remembers that before entering Qingzhou, I let His Highness enter Qingzhou 2 days later. Of course I remember. Hey, I have already contacted them for the past 2 days. Outside the city, they will prepare a workshop for us. When the time comes, the craftsmen from Zhaodi will come over and secretly imitate artillery in Qingzhou. At the same time, our people will try to buy the craftsmen of the Qingzhou Equipment Division. If it is successful, they will try to produce in the workshop. If they are successful, these craftsmen will return to Zhaodi. Your Highness, what do you think? Chapter 232. Puff. Zhao Quan, who was drinking water, spit out all the tea in his mouth. 20,000 taels of silver, this is enough to form a black armored cavalry of 400 people. Zhao Quan blurted out. Zhao Yuanlian also frowned. Your Highness, the price of this artillery is too high. I'm afraid we can't afford it. When talking to Xiao Wangxun about the price of the artillery, Xiao Ming specifically told Xiao Wangxun that the price of 8,000 taels was for the imperial court, and the external price would not be the same as the imperial court, and also euphemistically said that Xiao Wangxun should not tell the price. Xiao Wangxun agreed at that time. Therefore, apart from Xiao Wangxun, no one knew the price of Xiao Ming's artillery casting, but he also knew that King Zhao was not stupid, and he must have been concerned about the price of the artillery. Then how much do you think this cannon is worth? Xiao Ming asked. 6,000 taels is enough. Of course, we are responsible for the transportation. Zhao Yuanlian said. Hearing this, Xiao Ming stood up. Well, Yuanlian, you may have not seen this artillery before, but you have only heard of the prestige of this artillery. Why don't this king take you to see it? That's what I mean, and I hope His Highness will lead the way. Zhao Yuanlian was full of anticipation. Xiao Ming nodded and took Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan to the Qingzhou camp. Now there is an open field on the side of the Qingzhou camp. There are 3 artillery pieces specially used for training in this field. Xiao Ming brought Zhao Yuanlian to the artillery training ground. At this time, Luo Xin was instructing artillery training in the training ground. The last battle of Qingzhou was very rushed. The standard of the artillery on the battlefield was too poor. Basically, the artillery shells were flying randomly on the battlefield. If it wasn't for the first use of artillery, which caused a psychological fright to the barbarians, the effect of this artillery was really unsatisfactory. So after the Battle of Qingzhou, Xiao Ming asked Luo Xin to train the soldiers how to aim, how to adjust the angle, and how to hit the jumping egg to maximize the power of the artillery. Your Highness, seeing Xiao Ming coming, Luo Xin and the soldiers on the training ground immediately saluted him, and the armor on his body made a sound of metal friction. Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan glanced at the armor on the soldier's body, and a strange color flashed in their eyes according to their understanding. Although the artillery contributed a lot in the Qingzhou battle, in their opinion, the whole body armor of the Qingzhou army also deserved credit. At the gate of the city, it was not convenient for them to observe the armor of the soldiers guarding the city, and now they carefully looked at this special armor. Isn't this His Royal Highness? Luo Xin looked at Zhao Yuanlian after saluting Luo Xin. Zhao Yuanlian had seen Luo Xin more times than Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming said, since we all know each other, this matter is simple, Luo Xin. This time the prince came here for the artillery thing. Now let the soldiers shoot a cannonball for the prince to see. Yes, Your Highness. Luo Xin responded. Usually it is normal, but in the army Xiao Ming is the top general. He must obey orders as a subordinate, because Xiao Ming is ruthless. When it comes to military discipline, even Lu Fei was dealt with by military law many times. And now he is honest. Zhao Yuanlian looked at the artillery in front of him at this time, looking forward to it. Zhao Quan's eyes were even brighter. In Qingzhou, the name of this artillery has spread throughout the Great Yu Kingdom. On the contrary, Xiao Ming's credit is not as loud as this artillery. On the one hand, Kui Hao and others deliberately suppressed Xiao Ming. On the other hand, what they didn't know was that this was deliberately done by Xiao Ming, and the purpose was to sell arms. Now, after Xiao Ming's guidance, each cannon in the artillery battalion is equipped with 4 people as standard. 1 is responsible for clearing the gun chamber, 1 is responsible for loading ammunition, 1 is aiming, and 1 is responsible for igniting. At this time, the 4 soldiers in front of the artillery have completed the artillery loading and aiming work, and the rest only needs to be ignited. His Royal Highness, this time we are shooting at a target of 200 steps. Luo Xin said. Xiao Ming nodded. After all, it is his own person, and he has a good heart. If he wants to show it to outsiders, he naturally needs to show the most shocking effect at this time. There is a stone wall at 200 meters, which is specially used as a target. Yuanlian, you better cover your ears, the voice will be very loud later. Xiao Ming suggested. Zhao Yuanlian said, Your Highness doesn't have to. Since we want to buy artillery, we naturally have to experience it personally. When the 4 artillerymen heard the words, they suddenly looked like idiots, because they knew very well how loud the sound of the artillery was, and their hearing even deteriorated after a long period of training. Xiao Ming didn't stop him either. The superficial harmony was to be maintained, but he didn't bother to care about them. After all, this different surnamed vassal king was not a good person. Ignite. Luo Xin shouted at this time. At the same time, he put a cotton plug into his ear, and Xiao Ming also stood far away. The 4 soldiers also stuffed cotton plugs into their ears at the same time. The soldier in charge of ignition ignited the cannon. Boom, the fire shone, and with a loud noise, the ground that Xiao Ming only felt shook. My mother. At the moment when the artillery sounded, Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan screamed in fright, staggered back, and almost fell. Is Yuanlian alright? Xiao Ming asked. Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan were pale at this time. They had fire cannons on their city walls. When he saw the cannons, he thought that the sound of the cannons was similar to that of the fire cannons. Now they regretted it. It's okay, Your Highness, Zhao Yuanlian said strongly, while Zhao Quan's legs kept shaking. When the 4 artillerymen saw this, they all smirked, and Luo Xin couldn't help laughing. Zhao Yuanlian naturally noticed the expressions of Luo Xin and the 4 soldiers. He was secretly annoyed in his heart, but his face was still calm, and he said, Your Highness, the sound of this artillery is really loud, but I don't know how powerful it is. Yuanlian, you can see from there, Xiao Ming said, pointing to the stone wall 200 meters away. Looking in the direction of Xiao Ming's finger, Zhao Yuanlian and Zhao Quan's eyes flashed with shock. A section of the stone wall that was standing on the ground just now collapsed suddenly. Your Highness, this is not enough to explain the power of the artillery. Maybe the stone wall is not strong enough, Zhao Yuanlian said. Now that he brought Zhao Yuanlian over, Xiao Ming naturally had various preparations. He said, Since Yuanlian doesn't believe it, let's change our goal. Then Xiao Ming took Zhao Yuanlian to the training ground, and when he had reached 400 paces, a row of targets in the shape of clay cavalrymen appeared in front of him. This is a cavalry statue built in the shape of a barbarian cavalry. 1 every 10 meters, there are 30 in this row, and these clay statues are strong enough, Xiao Ming introduced. At this time, the artillery was 400 steps away, and the prince was going again. Look at the power of the artillery, Xiao Ming said. After reading it, Xiao Ming returned with the 2 of them. At this time, the soldiers opened fire on the cavalry clay sculpture again. However, because the distance was very long and the target was too small, the artillery missed 3 times in a row, until the 4th time, the artillery hit the cavalry clay sculpture. At this time, Xiao Ming brought Zhao Yuanlian and the 2 to the front again, and when he saw the mess on the ground, when all the 30 clay sculptures were smashed, Zhao Yuanlian was stunned. Chapter 234 Secret Guard. On the outside of Weijia Restaurant is Qingzhou East Market. With the influx of merchants, the East Market became more lively than ever. After the last bumper harvest, the people of Qingzhou also had surplus money in their hands, and the market became more and more noisy. The noisy sound of the market was clearly audible in the Wei family restaurant. So, we are going to stay in Qingzhou for some time? Zhao Yuanlian said. Zhao Quan nodded. His Royal Highness, King Qi must be very careful about the department of equipment at this time. At this time, we are taking a risk. If we are caught in the face, I am afraid that the head will not be guaranteed, but His Highness is different here. Now, if something goes wrong and His Highness goes out, the result will be 2 things. Besides, Empress Zhao is your aunt, and when you move out, Empress Zhao will not be afraid of Xiao Ming's loss of face. After all, this concubine Zhen is still in this harem. Yes, although Xiao Ming has a surly temperament, he is very filial. If he doesn't want his mother and concubine to be too sad in the harem, he has to give us Xiao's face. In this case, you will do your best to get this artillery technology as soon as possible. Get it? Yes, Your Highness, Zhao Quan bowed and said. At this time, the shopkeeper downstairs of the Wei family restaurant looked up at the guest room that was being held by the guards. He secretly recorded the number of people upstairs and the location of the room where the 2 lived under the table. Then he called a shop assistant and said, "Give this note to Li Dutuang." The shop assistant nodded, skillfully stuffed the note into the sole of his shoe and exited the restaurant. Then he mixed into the crowd of Dongshi, stopped in front of an old man selling vegetables to buy some vegetables, and took the note while giving the money to the old man, and the old man gave the note to a 13-year-old girl who was playing behind him, got the note, and hopped away. After leaving the East Market, the girl entered a private square adjacent to Prince Key's mansion, and finally entered a very unremarkable residential house. Is Li Dutong here? Entering the house, the girl entered the main hall of the house. At this time, the four people were sorting out the information from a pile of notes. Here as the secret guard Li Sangang came back from the palace and saw the girl. He said, "It seems that the Prince of Zhao has settled in the Wei family restaurant, right?" The girl's eyebrows are delicate and her eyes are bright, and she said, "How do you know?" "I just came back from His Royal Highness, and I was talking about Zhao Yuanlian. In Chang'an, Zhao Yuanlian has no mansion, so he can only stay at the best inn in Qingzhou." Li Sam said. The girl showed a dissatisfied look. "HMPH, it's really boring. You've guessed it every time. Of course. Who asked me to be the master? You are just an unqualified spy." Li San was triumphant. The girl looked at Li San with a different look in her eyes. She said, "HMPH, I'm not a spy, at least I know your secret." "What secret?" Li San reviewed the messages sent over one by one and didn't care. "Sister Liuli, elder sister Liuli." The girl suddenly called out twice playfully. When Li San heard the words, his expression changed greatly. "How did you know Liuli's name?" "Hee, it's not just me who knows. Everyone in the secret guard knows that when you were sleeping, you called her name twice, 3 times. Who is she?" The girl laughed wickedly. Li San's face suddenly turned red. "I want you to take care of it, no matter how big or small. Go back and stare at Zhao Yuanlian for me. If anyone connects with him, you must remember it for me." The girl looked disappointed, turned around and left with a snort. Seeing the girl leave, Li San suddenly became startled. He recalled the pretty figure on the pier outside Chang'an City, and his heart burst into flames when he saw Liuli for the first time. He felt that it was like descending from a fairy. After thinking about it for a while, Li San came back to his senses, and his expression suddenly became serious. He knew that he was not qualified to think about these things now. After all, he used to be just a handyman in the palace, but Liuli was the maid next to Queen Key's concubine, so during this time he worked hard to create a secret guard, so that he could become a vital figure under Xiaoming in the future. At that time, he may be qualified to ask Qi Wang to ask concubine Zhen for Liuli. Thinking of this, Li San's expression became firm, and he looked at the information in his hand, which all contained the information of unidentified merchants. Several of the merchants were from Zhaodi, which caught his attention. According to King Qi's words, this Zhao Yuanlian's mission to Qingzhou this time naturally seeks artillery technology. For this reason, he must contact businessmen who are familiar with Qingzhou. These businessmen have been in Qingzhou for nearly a year and are the most suitable candidates. Thinking of this, he immediately called the secret guard to assign the task. The task given to him by King Qi was to keep an eye on the equipment department. Now the craftsmen of the equipment department are basically living in the equipment department, and they can only go out once a month. When the craftsman took a rest, he had to keep an eye on these craftsmen at the same time. He is also going to use the phishing method to track businessmen who spy on the news. This method was taught to him by Xiaoming. Xiaoming said that this is called phishing law enforcement. According to this method, he will deliberately let a craftsman play the role of bait. The craftsman will come up with a set of fake artillery casting techniques. When the official transaction is completed, he will arrest and eliminate these fine works mixed into Qingzhou one by one. Bowen College. After Li San left, Xiaoming went directly here, and Yu Yun and others also arrived after visiting the Galen ship in order to popularize knowledge. Bowen College has been preparing for it. Now some students have studied in Bowen College, and some students are waiting for notification to report. During this period of time, the number of students applying for Bowen College has increased, and the school that Xiaoming originally set up seems to be insufficient. Your Highness, what are you doing here? Looking at the scholars who came in and out of Bowen College, Yu Yun asked. This is a place to learn knowledge? Xiaoming said. What is knowledge? Yu Yun was puzzled. Xiaoming smiled. For example, the sailing you are about to learn, this is the knowledge of sailing. In general, knowledge is the accumulation of experience of predecessors. Yu Fei nodded, his eyes full of curiosity about this place. The two were talking when they saw Luo Xin walking over with the people from the artillery battalion. He said to Xiaoming, Your Highness, are you looking for me? Yes. Some of these people will act as gunners. You have to teach them. Xiaoming said. Luo Xin smiled bitterly. Your Highness, I haven't learned it yet. How can I teach them? That's why I called you here. Look at the artillery you fired today. It's almost the same as before. It seems that you must be taught how to aim the artillery aiming method? Luo Xin said excitedly. Xiaoming nodded. That's right, it just so happens that you are all here. I'll tell you all at once. P.S. I would like to recommend 2 new books, Sports Calling Heroes, Tang Hao accidentally fell off a cliff and died. Li Guang, I heard you want to shoot arrows? Come and watch the old man wear Yang Zili in 100 steps. Xiangyu, do you want to lift weights? It's too simple, watch me raise a tripod with 1 hand. What, with 2 hands? Alright, look at my hands up, Bruce Lee, Off-White, KO, Zhang Shun, butterfly? Backstroke, breaststroke? Freestyle? It's so troublesome, come and watch me teach you freestyle swimming in the waves. Achieving the highest. The great world of Zhuanghuang is the ultimate test place created by the first powerhouse Beatty since the beginning of the world, in order to cultivate a worthy opponent and stimulate his own cultivation to break through in every era. More than 10 billion arrogant talents have been selected to join the great world of Zhuanghuang as the most powerful man on earth, the wisest man in history, the richest man in the world, the uncrowned king, a great scientist, a piano master, an actor, a writer, a mathematician, a philosopher, a master of psychology, and a master of mechanics. Lin Yuan originally thought that he had nothing worth pursuing and learning in his life, but he never thought about it, but suddenly received an invitation from the great world of Zhuanghuang. An invincible myth that defeated the arrogance of all races was born. Chapter 235. Difficult Teaching. In a vacant classroom at Bowen College, Luo Xin and Yu Yun took their seats with him. Xiaoming was standing on the podium at this time. He looked at the people below and thought that he would probably live the same life as a teacher in the future. For him, it is his advantage to spread scientific knowledge as much as possible. Now this school will be the school of the Naval Academy in the future. I will inform you of the class in the future, and you will gather here. Xiaoming said to Yu Yun and others. Yes, Your Highness. Yu Yun and the others looked excited, and their voices were particularly loud. How could these fishermen's children who were fishing at sea ever think that they were qualified to teach in the school? When they were young, they were very envious of those who were able to study in private schools, because once they were able to study, it meant that they would hope to become high officials in the future, and not being able to study meant that their fate would only be the same as that of their ancestors as a fisherman. Naval Academy. Your Highness, should our artillery also have an artillery academy? Luo Xin. Xiaoming smiled and said, of course there is. The vacant room next door is the school of the artillery academy. After this king gives you the method of aiming the artillery, you will be responsible for teaching the artillery in the future. Really? Luo Xin laughed. This Bowen Academy is a very mysterious place to outsiders, because as an academy, it is guarded by guards, and it is as tightly guarded as a military barracks. And unlike a small house in a private school, Bowen College has a large area, and there are many vacant classrooms in the college, and some of them are under construction. When they passed a school just now, they saw Lu Tong talking in a school. He was surprised by the fact that a group of scholars were sitting below with some weird knowledge. Xiaoming nodded. For the sake of convenience, Xiaoming planned to build Bowen College into a comprehensive college. This was also for the convenience of classes, otherwise he would be bored just running back and forth. Moreover, although many scholars were admitted to the Bowen College, based on the base of King's House scholars, many of them were not more than 1,000. In addition to Lu Tong, the equipment department, the mines, the military workshops and other technical personnel, and the Navy and the Army in the future, the number of people is only more than 2,000. In modern times, it is basically equal to the size of the middle school. Therefore, now basically there is only one school for a major after the school was designated as the School of the Naval Academy. Xiaoming said, Yu Yun, you said that sailing is very simple, then this king asks you, how do you sail at sea? Of course you're walking along the land where you can see the land. Yu Yun looked a little smug, feeling that Xiaoming also had something he didn't understand. Xiaoming sneered. This school is a brick concrete structure, that is, a modern tile-roofed building. In front of the school, he specially instructed to leave a blackboard. Basically, this school is not much different from modern teachers. At the beginning, the craftsmen did not know what a blackboard was. Xiaoming also came over to guide the craftsmen. The blackboard in the school is actually very simple. It is just a smooth cement board, and black paint is applied on the cement board at this time. In front of Xiaoming was Jai chalk, which was made of limestone and gypsum. In order to facilitate teaching in the classroom, he specially made modern chalk using limestone and gypsum. After all, this is not a complicated process, and it was produced by the way when making cement. Picking up the chalk, Xiao Ming drew a large oval on the blackboard of the school, and then drew a stroke in the oval. 20 minutes later, an accurate world map appeared in front of everyone. His Royal Highness, what is this? A map? A map of what place? Luo Xin saw that it was a map, but couldn't tell where it was. This is a map of the world. This hole is called the Earth. Now we live on the Earth. Let me ask another question. Do you think the saying that the sky's round and the place is correct? Luo Xin grew up in a Confucian academic atmosphere. He said, Your Highness, you are joking. Confucian records? In Dadali. Zhengzi Tianyuan. Shanzhili asked Zhengzi. Tianyuan is for the place. Zhengzi said, the sky's round and the place is not covered by the four corners, so there is no doubt that the sky's round. At this time, Yu Yun was silent. He had not received Confucian education. The people in the fishing village were illiterate, and no one talked about it at all. He suddenly said, His Royal Highness, the grass people don't understand any classics and history, but every time I see fishing boats coming back at times, we always see the sail first, and then the hull. If the ground is square, how can this be? Xiao Ming smiled and nodded. Luo Xin's thoughts were deeply ingrained, while Yu Yun was easily suspicious because he didn't read. The reason you see such a scene is because the place we live in is round. Xiao Ming concluded. Hearing this, Luo Xin burst into laughter, as if he had heard a big joke. Your Highness, I believe in the rest. I forgive Luo Xin for being rude. The things handed down from the ancestors, Your Highness can't just talk nonsense. When he said this theory, Xiao Ming knew that he would encounter a lot of resistance. Changing the thinking of an era is much more difficult than establishing an industrial system. Therefore, he never thought of expanding the popularization of this kind of knowledge, but just spread this advanced knowledge in the Bowen Academy first. But looking at Luo Xin's appearance, he basically understood what would happen to him. This Luo Xin was only a military attaché. If he told those pedantic scholars, wouldn't they want to fry the pot directly with a secret sigh in his heart? Xiao Ming said in his heart that popularizing scientific knowledge is a long way to go. He must be patient and withstand the pressure. He said, Luoxin, you know a lot, then let me ask you, why after you aim at a target with your artillery and fire it, the projectile's landing point is always a little different? Speaking of this question, Luo Xin hesitated. Your Highness, this is the same as bows and arrows. The bows and arrows that are shot will always fall, and the same is true for cannonballs. With more training, practice makes perfect. You know it and don't know why. Xiao Ming said with a smile. Luo Xin scratched his head, puzzled. What else is there? Although Luo Xin also studied hard in the cold window, in Xiao Ming's eyes, what he has learned in 10 years is only Chinese, so it is normal that the ancients' articles cannot be followed by future generations. But in mathematics, physics and chemistry, Luo Xin is no different from an idiot. The aiming of this artillery, of course, also has the principle of parabola. The current artillery basically uses the principle of 3-point-1 line aiming. Every artillery has a sight and a rear sight, but these crosshairs were just for emergencies at the time, and the head aiming was not accurate. The reason why he called Luo Xin was to teach him to calculate the parabola and adjust the crosshairs, so that in the future, the point where the crosshairs were aimed at was the landing point calculated by the parabola, and he could just hit it directly. Chapter 236 Saltpeter and Lead Ore. In the school, everyone looked at Xiao Ming, including Luo Xin, who was also full of expectations. Now the artillery in Qingzhou is a smoothbore gun, that is, a direct firing gun. In ancient times, firearms were a smaller version of artillery. Because of this, the principle of 3 points and 1 line also applies to firearms. However, these 3 points and 1 line do not mean that you can just install a front sight and rear sight. The front sight and rear sight of different firearms are different, which all need to be tested. After all, the power of different guns and the weight of the shells are also different. Therefore, his artillery also needs to be tested, and then the data can be installed to install accurate sights and rear sights. That's why the parabola is the principle. When the shell is fired, it will be affected by gravity. Xiao Ming said. When he said this, the entire school showed a confused look. Looking at the confused faces, Xiao Ming suddenly felt a little tired. This is the purpose of his school. This is not something that can be taught to Luo Xin in 3 or 2 days. First of all, he has to teach them addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, and then start with basic physics. It is enough to reach the level of the second year of junior high school. He estimated that even with the high quality of his technology spar, it will take close to a month. Let people like Luo Xin learn how to calculate the impact point and complete the test of the crosshair and rear sight. Of course, he will not sell the sight and the artillery with the sight, but keep it for himself. Once the site and side are available, it is equivalent to a technological upgrade when the two armies confront each other. The advantage of this artillery will be immediately highlighted as Royal Highness, we don't understand what you said. Luo Xin is a military general after all, and he has a headache with this knowledge. You'll understand when you learn it. Xiao Ming ignored Luo Xin. He wasn't going to tell Luo Xin about the perfect world. Anyway, this guy walked on land, so it's not very useful to learn it, but to Yu Yun. It must be said that, fortunately, Yu Yunruzi can be taught, and he is much stronger than Luo Xin. Then he began to talk about basic mathematics, and wrote the basic Arabic numerals on the blackboard. In the future sailing, Yu Yun also needs to perform mathematical calculations to determine the position, so he also has to learn this knowledge the rest of the day. Xiao Ming basically spent in the school, from simple Arabic numbers to addition and subtraction within 10, to more complex calculation methods because they are all adults and have the initiative to learn. The course effect this afternoon is quite good, and because of the role of the technology spar, they have memorized most of the content in the evening. Xiao Ming asked Lu Tong to arrange room and board for Yu Yun and others, and instructed Luo Xin to come and listen to lectures every afternoon before returning to the palace at this time. The sky was already a bit hazy and dark, and he was about to go back when he suddenly saw a person hurriedly approaching from the gate of Bowen College Dafu. Xiao Ming saw this person clearly and exclaimed in surprise. The person who came was Jin Dafu. As soon as he saw Xiao Ming, Jin Dafu immediately said, "Your Highness, the saltpeter mine has finally been found, and we have also found lead mine." "What, really?" Xiao Ming was overjoyed. "Yes, Your Highness, we have finally found it." Jin Dafu used to be a fat man, but now he is black and thin. At this time, he looked excited. Xiao Ming was equally excited. He said, "Great, Dafu, you have done a great job. As long as the matter of His Highness is not delayed, the old slave will be happy. As for the credit, the old slave really doesn't care." Jin Dafu said with a smile. Xiao Ming was moved for a while. This Jin Dafu was a person he completely trusted, so he entrusted him with the important task of finding mines. What he lacks now is resources. Let's go back to the palace. I'll let the kitchen prepare a big meal for you. Xiao Ming laughed. Back at the palace, Xiao Ming asked the kitchen to prepare food, and went to the main hall with Jin Dafu to inquire about the saltpeter mine. "His Royal Highness, this mine is really hard to find. We searched for the place that His Highness roughly said for a whole month and found nothing. Does His Highness know how we found it later?" Jin Dafu said. Xiao Ming shook his head. "At that time, we were too far from the nearest village to go back, and there was no food to eat. Several soldiers discussed going into the mountains to hunt. Unexpectedly, while chasing a hare, the hare suddenly got into a cave in the woods. In the middle of the night, a few soldiers went in and immediately found that there was saltpeter in this cave." Jin Dafu was beaming. Jin Dafu said it was very simple, but Xiao Ming could understand the difficulty of this prospecting at this time. The saltpeter mine has made progress, and neither the king of Shu nor the imperial court can use this to blackmail him. It seems that this king has to thank this rabbit. Xiao Ming looked happy. He said, "Where's this lead mine?" Jin Dafu took a sip of water and said, "The lead mine is a little far from Qingzhou, near Yizhao. Yizhao is about 200 miles away from Qingzhou, which is indeed a bit far." He said, "It's far away, it's better than nothing, but is there still no progress in this tungsten mine?" Jin Dafu shook his head and said regretfully, "The tungsten ore has not been found yet, but Your Highness, why do you have to look for this tungsten ore? Because the smelting of tungsten ore and wrought iron can make the material harder. If there is tungsten ore, this king can try to produce tungsten alloy, so that the manual lathe will have qualified tools, then this king can make it's a magical machine." Xiao Ming said. The mysterious machine in his mouth was naturally a steam engine. The population of Qingzhou is too small. Once the steam engine is available, he can replace the lack of manpower with the power of the steam engine. More importantly, this can greatly increase the steel-making capacity of the steel mill. Jin Dafu didn't seem to understand. He smiled and said, "In this case, the old slave will focus on looking for tungsten mines, saltpeter ore, solve the problem of gunpowder, and lead ore, solve the problem of cannonballs and future firearms and bullets." Xiao Ming has a big heart, but now he has to think about preparing for the next technological upgrade, and that's where the lathe really works. "Don't worry, this time you take a break before leaving. This king doesn't want to tire you out." Xiao Ming said. The two talked for a while, when Luo walked in and said, "Your Highness, the food is ready. Let's go, let's eat." This king asked Powding to prepare your favorite smoked pig's trotters. Xiao Ming smiled when he mentioned this. Jin Dafu suddenly laughed. His Royal Highness, this old slave is just fine. It's worth eating this pig's trotters no matter how tired you are. Xiaoming laughed loudly when he heard the words, and Luo also covered her mouth and smiled. After returning to King Zhao, the girl gradually recovered. Speaking of which, Xiaoming also likes to eat smoked pork trotters, but Dave country does not have this dish. This is what he taught Paoling to make carefully. This Jin Dafu has become addicted to eating it for the first time. See you drooling at the smoked pork trotters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Obstruction. In the palace, the smell of smoked pig's trotters filled the whole courtyard. Xiaoming was seated in the main seat, while Jin Dafu was seated below him. There was a low table in front of the two of them. This was the table dedicated to eating in the Great Yu Kingdom. Usually, they sat on the floor when eating. Seeing the rich dishes on the table, Jin Dafu's eyes suddenly lit up. He had really suffered enough for the past few months, but before they could move their chopsticks, a servant suddenly came to report that it was Niu Ben, Lu Fei and others had arrived, and Pang Yukin and Chen Wenlong were among them. His Royal Highness? Did you call them here? Jin Dafu asked strangely. Xiaoming said helplessly, how is it possible? They must have known the news of your return, and they can find an excuse to come over to eat because Xiaoming seldom held banquets. Every now and then, like other princes, Lu Fei and the others from Niu Ben were really looking for every excuse to come to him for a meal. Quite the taste of a big eater. Ha. That's the case, but it's quite lively. The old slave has been out for 3 months. I'm afraid it will be another few months. I'm afraid I will be unfamiliar after this time. Jin Dafu said. Xiaoming nodded to the servants and motioned him to let Niu Ben and others come in. It is rare for so many people to get together on weekdays. It should be a small meeting, and often eating and drinking together can deepen each other's feelings. Steward Jin, you are really thin again. Pang Yukin bowed to Jin Dafu as soon as he came, and Jin Dafu also stood up and greeted Pang Yukin and others one by one, and Niu Ben and Lu Fei exchanged greetings, and their eyes turned to the dishes on the table, each with a gleam of light. Sit down, you won't stop if you don't make this king poor. Xiaoming sighed and asked Ziwen to prepare a few more tables and the kitchen to prepare a few more dishes. His Royal Highness, this is not right. Today at Bowen College, I have been thinking about what you said, and now my head hurts. Why do you have to reward me? Luo Xin laughed. Niu Ben and Lu Fei naturally knew that Luo Xin went to Bowen College. Lu Fei laughed when he heard the words, His Royal Highness. Luo Xin came back and said that this place is round, and said that you said it. This is ridiculous. When Niu Ben and the others heard this, they immediately burst into laughter. Only Chen Qi's expression remained unchanged because Xiaoming had already told him about it. Lu Fei was smiling, and when he saw Xiaoming staring at him, he closed his mouth and swallowed. Xiaoming felt helpless for a while. It seems that he has become a joke in everyone's eyes now. If this is spread to Chang'an, I don't know how many people will laugh at him. He said, it's enough to spread this word among you. Outsiders don't say it for the time being, so as not to cause trouble to this king. Everyone nodded. In their opinion, if this matter spread out, it would indeed affect Xiaoming's reputation. The group sat down without mentioning the matter, and asked about Jin Dafu's situation these days. After learning that the saltpeter and lead ore were found, Chen Qi said excitedly, Your Highness, we can produce lead bullets now. Chen Qi's voice caught the attention of Niu Ben and others. Luo Xin asked, Bubble, what is this? Chen Qi explained, His Royal Highness said that this lead bullet is poisonous, and if it hits people, it will be poisoned to death. If you use it against the barbarians, you will definitely scare the barbarians into shit. Xiaoming nodded. Since lead is relatively soft, it tends to release all the kinetic energy after hitting the human body. At this time, the warhead that hits the human body will be severely deformed or even ruptured, resulting in a horn-shaped cavity in the human tissue, and the wound area is hundreds of times the cross-sectional area of the iron projectile. Secondly, the lead bullet will also instantly produce huge pressure on the blood circulation system of the human body and cause damage, and the damage ability is unimaginable, and the pain of the injured is not only here. If the fragments of the projectile are not all taken out from the wound, the lead will cause lead poisoning to the human body into the wound, causing infection. At this time, even Hua Tuo could not save him if he was alive. And the process of dying will be very painful. In addition, according to the data, 90% of the people who are directly hit by the lead shot in the head at a distance of 100 meters will die, 20% of the people who are hit by the limbs will die, and the rest can only be amputated, and a hit near the heart is basically 100% dead. Therefore, in modern times, lead bullets are very disgusting and threatening in terms of destructive power, lethality, and humanitarian considerations, almost the same as the infamous bacterial weapon match in the past. The British used a lot of lead bullets in the Crimean War in the Afghan battlefield, which still left a shadow in the hearts of the locals. Therefore, the Hague International Convention expressly prohibits the use of lead bullets. Poisonous? Luo Xin's face was a little strange. Your Highness, really? Xiao Ming nodded. Modern people know that lead is poisonous. The purpose of finding lead mine this time is to produce lead cannonballs as the third type of projectile after grape bombs. Moreover, this lead bullet will be specially used to hit barbarian generals, not to mention a direct hit. As long as it is concentrated by the fragments of the lead bullet, it is basically not far from death. At the same time, this lead bullet is also the bullet that the King Zhao army will use after equipping firearms, because it is much cheaper to use lead bullets than to use steel balls, but the main purpose is to deal with the barbarians. He has been looking at the fertile land in Yaoxiao. If he really drives the barbarians away, not only can he see the barbarians from Shanhaiguan, but there are more land than population. That's what Count Niu Ben said at this time. The barbarians are doing everything they can to deal with us, and they can't be kind to the enemy. Your Highness, Steward Jin, you really made a great contribution. Yes, in the Battle of Kangzhou, the number of slave soldiers who died was more than 10 times that of the barbarians. These were all people living in the homeland of Yao Zhao. Lu Fei said. Pang Yukan wanted to oppose this cruel cannonball. After all, what he accepted was the Confucian thought of benevolence, but Niu Ben and other generals in the army shared the same hatred, and he didn't say it in the end because he felt that what Niu Ben and others said might be right. Let's not mention this. Today is to reward Jin Dafu. Come on, let's have dinner together. Xiao Ming noticed Pang Yukan's expression at this time. Pang Yukan did not object, but he was relieved. In today's school, he gradually felt the influence of the deep-rooted feudal ideology of Confucianism on him. He admitted that the son, the father, the monarch, the minister and the minister are very beneficial to his rule. However, the pedantic side is also hindering the progress of civilization. It is recorded in the Science and Technology database that in the Ming Dynasty, the study of folk astronomy was even banned. This is the Confucian idea of strengthening centralization. Chapter 238 Weights and Measures. In the Red Sunset, everyone began to eat and drink. The kitchen is constantly served with a variety of delicacies that can only be found in modern times. Although Xiao Ming has been working hard on hard power, he is also concerned about soft power. In addition to food, he is still preparing for the revival of literature and art, and this is the war against Confucian feudalism. But now he does not dare to act rashly. Even if he is a vassal king, he does not dare to be the enemy of all scholars in the world at this time. He will only wait to gradually strengthen the authority of Bowen College, and then try it with King Zhao as a pilot. After all, most of today's scholars still take being an official as their lifelong goal, which greatly affects his cultivation of talents while eating. Several people still kept their mouths shut. Pang Yukan said, Your Highness, the sales of fine wine, soap, and perfume are now flattening out. Your Highness is talented, haven't you considered new products during this time? Pang Yukan got the point of this question. In this drunken state, soap and perfume have been tossing around for a year now, and the freshness has passed. The most important thing is that he has auctioned the sales rights of these three kinds of goods, and he can only make profits from direct sales of goods for a long time in the future. Moreover, the merchants who won these three kinds of commodities were all big merchants in each state, and the small merchants in the Great Yu Kingdom could not drink soup at that time. Xiao Ming was trying to make money to promote the rapid development of King Zhao, but the problem arose when he passed this period smoothly. The monopoly of big businessmen made the business still inactive. Therefore, he has been considering launching new products to provide business opportunities for the people in the fief, and now he has identified new merchandise. He said, I already have it. In the past 2 days, I ordered the workshop to produce 1 or 2 pieces. This time, I will not auction the right to sell this product, but let all merchants buy it. Pang Yukan was overjoyed. During this period of time, the Chamber of Commerce was a little dead, and few new merchants joined. If new products were launched, it would definitely stimulate the business again. As soon as Pang Yukan's voice fell, Lu Fei said, Your Highness, the last commander also has something to say. Luo Xin's artillery has a special school. Should our other soldiers also have one? Otherwise I'm afraid the soldiers will not accept it. After all, in the Battle of Kangzhou, they played a much bigger role than the artillery. He had already thought about this question during the day, And he said to Niu Ben, "This king has left a school for you, old general. How much do you know about the flag language, His Royal Highness? I am quite proficient in the semaphore." "Do you mean to select some soldiers to serve as semaphore bearers?" Niu Ben said, "More than that, there are also drummers and trumpeters." Xiao Ming said, "Drummer, trumpeter?" Niu Ben stopped the wine in his hand and looked at Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming explained, "This drummer is trained for the future, and this trumpeter can issue various orders by blowing trumpets during wartime, such as charge horn, wake up horn, outgoing horn, closing horn, assembly, and emergency assembly, rest number, lunch number, etc. Can be said to be no worse than semaphore, but you may not know what a bugle is. And when the equipment department produces it, this king will show it to you." Niu Ben nodded when he heard the words. It seems that the normalization of the army is going a step further now that the banquet has become a small meeting. Xiao Ming simply said, "There is one more thing. This matter involves everyone, and this is unified weights and measures." Xiao Ming said this to Pang Yukan. Pang Yukan said in surprise, "Your Highness, this weight and measure has been unified since Qin Shi Huang unified the 6 countries." "This is," Xiao Ming said, "indeed, but this king is talking about another set of weights and measures, and this king will write a special textbook as the industry gradually pursues refinement. The reform of weights and measures is inevitable. Whether it is chemistry or industry, a set of scientific weights and measures is required at this banquet." Xiao Ming just reminded them that these things will be done one by one in the future. The banquet lasted for an hour, and everyone left with a full meal. When Xiao Ming returned to the dormitory, he officially wrote the textbook. One of them was the semaphore, bugle, drummer operation, etc. in the army. The second one was the unit of weights and measures. However, when writing about the units of measurement, Xiao Ming had some difficulties. These units are easy to write, but the real difficulty is the tools of measurement for things like rulers. He has to find a way to produce them precisely. After a busy middle of the night, Xiao Ming fell asleep. The next morning, Li San arrived at the palace very early. He said, "His Royal Highness, Zhao Yuanlian has been living in the Wei family restaurant since he left the palace and did not leave, and the man named Zhao Quan who followed him also had contact with the merchants of Zhao in the city, and he didn't know what he was planning." While washing his face, Xiao Ming listened to Li San's report. He asked Li San to report the matter to him every day. "It's definitely not going to plan anything good. In that case, we'll put a long line to catch big fish. HMPH, this Zhao Yuanlian will definitely rely on Queen Zhao as his aunt and not be afraid of this king, but I can't let him come around in King Zhao." Xiao Ming said. Li San nodded. "Since that's the case, it's time to take a break. I'll inform the craftsmen to get ready. Well, let's get started. Get this guy away as soon as possible, and the king's heart will be a little more comfortable." Xiao Ming said, "Yes, Your Highness." Li San bowed in response, then turned and left the palace. Back at the secret guard, Li San prepared and went to the equipment department, where he found 3 craftsmen who acted as bait. These 3 craftsmen are all natives of King Zhao, and their wives, daughters and children are all local. Although Xiao Ming has always been very tolerant to craftsmen, he has to be a villain when it comes to the secrets of King Zhao. All the craftsmen and their families will be placed in a private workshop in King Zhao. It gave a lot of benefits, but at the same time, it was also to prevent craftsmen from selling the secrets of the equipment company. The craftsmen are sharp in their hearts, but they don't say it, because it seems to them that this is normal, and they used to live a stricter life than this. If someone finds you, you will pretend to sell them artillery technology, and the secret guards will always follow you, but you must be vigilant to prevent any accidents." Li Sam said yes. Follow Li Dutong's words. The craftsmen said. They were still grateful to Xiao Ming from the bottom of their hearts. The craftsmen were very low in the country of Yu, but Xiao Ming gave them dignity and a generous salary. At the same time, their children could enter the school for free. Now they have nothing else to ask for. Li San nodded. He had ordered all the secret guards in the city to act on this day. If evidence was found, Xiao Ming would have reason to drive Zhao Yuanlian away. Chapter 239 Dark Battle. In the Wei family restaurant, Zhao Quan's eyes swept across the shopkeeper's body and turned to leave the inn. Today is the day of rest, and the craftsmen of the equipment department will come out of the equipment department to rest for a day. In the past 2 days, he has been planning how to get the artillery technology, and he has also contacted a few businessmen in Tayoti, but he has a clear mind. However, he secretly sneered in his heart. If Xiao Ming thought that this would destroy his plan, it would be too simple. Since King Zhao's goods entered Tayoti, Zhao Weng has been interested in King Zhao. Many of these Zhaodi merchants are played by the meticulous work sent by Zhao Wang. They have been trained and are very skilled in spying, and during this time, they also use the money in their hands, promises and other conditions to buy a lot of local eyeliners in King Zhao. After all, the reason why betrayal is impossible is only because the price of the betrayal is not enough. Zhao Quan is very clear about this. Therefore, if he promises a street ruffian in King Zhao that he will be prosperous and rich in the fief of King Zhao, he will also marry him. The house is beautiful, so they are usually happy. It is through this method that they have planted a lot of eyeliners in King Zhao. Of course, he is also very clear that other vassal lords are also secretly arranged in King Zhao. This time, he deliberately and blatantly contacted a few businessmen in Zhaodi, just to confuse Xiaoming. King Zhao's eyeliner. This time, the real people who will take action will not be the businessmen of Zhaoland, but also the insiders in King Zhao City. When he went out in the morning, he was going to find these Zhao businessmen to eat, drink and have fun. By the way, he walked around King Zhao City, so that he could attract the attention of Xiaoming's eyeliner, and the order has been sent out by him secretly. Xiaoming, compared with Zhao Wang, you are still too tender. Zhao Quan laughed playfully. He had already noticed that there was something wrong with the shopkeeper of the Wei family restaurant, and staying in the Wei family restaurant was just a way for Xiaoming to neglect to take precautions. While thinking about it, Zhao Quan entered the private square, and there was a merchant from Zhaoland who lived here. At the same time, the three young people walked out of the private workshop, and the moment they missed each other, their eyes met, and a smile appeared on Zhao Quan's mouth. Outside the door of the equipment department, craftsmen came out of the equipment department one after another. It was rare to have a rest a month. The craftsmen walked together in twos and threes, or went home, or went to Dongxi to purchase, or played in the city. And behind these craftsmen, there are always people who are dressed up by the common people. These people will not always follow a goal, but will be replaced every once in a while. The reason for this is to avoid being suspected by others that someone is secretly protecting these craftsmen. Li San was in the East City at this time. This is the most densely populated place in King Zhao City. Once the craftsman arrives here, the secret guard will have to play 120 spirits as planned. Other craftsmen were ordered not to go to the East and West markets this time, and only a few craftsmen who had been ordered to go here at this time, in the East market. Many secret guards squatted in every corner as traitors. When the craftsmen entered the East market, everyone became vigilant. Li Dutuang, Zhao Quan and several merchants from Zhao have already come over, said a secret guard. Li San looked at the entrance of Dongxi at this time, and sure enough, Zhao Quan and several merchants he contacted were walking towards this side. Leisurely frowning his brows, Li San said, "Keep an eye on them first. Why do I feel something is wrong?" The secret guard nodded and left quietly. After Zhao Quan entered the East market with 3 merchants, he wandered in the East market. He said to a merchant, "According to the plan, can you distinguish the craftsmen of the equipment division?" "No problem, we have been observing here for a year, and we can recognize the important craftsmen of the equipment department at a glance." "Well, since that's the case, you will go up and create chaos later." Zhao Quan said. The 3 merchants nodded and went straight to the 3 craftsmen who were walking side by side. As they passed by, one of the merchants deliberately bumped into the craftsman. The craftsman was staggered. He frowned and glanced at the 3 people dressed as merchants who didn't want to make trouble. After all, they had a mission today, so they continued to move forward. But at this time, the 3 merchants suddenly walked up to them, and one of them said, "Hey, you bumped into someone, you can leave as you like. Is there any king law?" When the merchant said this, a craftsman argued, "It's obviously the one you bumped into, so why did you frame us instead? We bumped into you? You King Zhao natives just like to bully us foreign businessmen. Now you are still arguing. Let me tell you, if you don't apologize today, you don't want to leave. Judging from your dress, you should be a craftsman, right?" Sure enough, they are a bunch of pariahs. The businessman spoke sarcastically. These words seriously stimulated the 3 craftsmen, and one craftsman said angrily, "You profiteers, the lowest and inferior, have no qualifications to say that we, scholars, farmers, businessmen, what are you?" The 3 merchants were furious when they heard the words, and immediately rushed up and scuffled with the 3 craftsmen. Suddenly, the entrance of the Wei family restaurant fell into chaos. Li San and the others were monitoring Zhao Quan and the others, and they were all at a loss. At this time, the 3 businessmen clearly had the upper hand. "No, it shouldn't be like this." Li San muttered to himself, but if he didn't make a move at this time, these craftsmen had to be beaten to death. He immediately said, "Go and stop them with a few people." The news went on, and the 4 merchants immediately stepped forward to persuade the fight, but the 3 merchants were very brave, and they even fought with the secret guard who persuaded the fight, and the 4 received a lot of punches. The door of the Wei family restaurant became more and more chaotic. At this time, the shopkeeper and the staff in the restaurant also came out to help. After they left the restaurant, 2 people dressed as guards left the restaurant because of the chaos in front of the door. No one noticed them at the same time. On the street in front of Jiafang in the southern part of the city, 3 young men squatted on the side of the road when he saw a craftsman appear. One of the young people stood up and shouted, "Brother Zhang. Today's equipment department is Xiu Mu." After seeing the young man, the businessman surnamed Zhang said, yes, once a month he knew these 3 young people. They were 3 street ruffians in the village where he used to live. They didn't usually farm or do business, and only hung out on the streets. After saying hello, the craftsman continued to walk home. The idea of how these 3 were here flashed in his mind, but he just thought about it and didn't care. It's just that when he turned around, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head, and then his mind became blurred. The 3 young men knocked out the businessman surnamed Zhang with one stick. They had already figured out this location. The Fangding of the family house was handing over and would not be patrolling here at this time, and this businessman surnamed Zhang would basically return to Duan's family house at this time. Every time he took a rest at this moment, a carriage stopped in front of them, and the 3 immediately stuffed the craftsman into the carriage and walked away. Chapter 240. In the East City, the chaos gradually subsided. The 3 merchants from Zhaoland were captured by the soldiers who came, and all the 3 craftsmen arranged by Li San were injured. At the same time, news came that there was chaos in the West City, and the craftsmen were also injured. What the hell is going on? Li San frowned and said, everything was in his plan, but things went beyond his expectations. Immediately notify all the craftsmen to return to the equipment department. We may be fooled. After thinking for a while, Li San said in surprise. He turned his head to look at the Wei family restaurant, only to see Zhao Quan turn around and enter the restaurant. He continued to ask, how is the situation in the restaurant? There are 2 guards who don't know where they went, said a shop assistant in the restaurant. Li San felt that something was wrong more and more. Hurry up and do it. I'll go see His Highness right away. A group of secret guards responded and dispersed, and Li San immediately went to the palace. What? The craftsman was beaten? Xiao Ming was slightly surprised when Li San told the situation in the East and West cities to be on the safe side. He said to Zhao Long, you immediately inform the guards to close the city gate. Without my order, the city gate is not allowed to be opened. Then he said to Li San, let's go to the equipment department now. When the 2 went out, 3 long and 2 short bells rang in Qingzhou City. This was an order to urgently call the craftsmen back to the equipment division at the equipment department. Some craftsmen have come back one after another. After waiting for about an hour, basically all the craftsmen have arrived. His Royal Highness, what happened? Chen Wenlong also rushed to the equipment department, looking nervous. I'm afraid something has happened. Xiao Ming saw these craftsmen one by one, and always felt that there was one person missing. He often went in and out of the equipment department, and was naturally familiar with the craftsmen. Here, Your Highness, Zhang Liu is gone. A craftsman suddenly shouted. Xiao Ming nodded. It was this Zhang Liu. When Chen Wenlong heard the words, his expression suddenly sank. He understood that now all forces are staring at the equipment division, and this craftsman is their target. Your Highness, isn't it? Chen Wenlong hesitated. I'm afraid Zhang Liu will be taken away. This king really underestimated the courage of these people. I thought they would only resort to bribes, but I didn't expect them to take people directly. Xiao Ming said solemnly. Li San's face flushed, and he said angrily, who followed Zhang Liu? Li Dutuang, it's Zhang Liu that I followed. I saw Zhang Liu enter the street in front of Duan Jiafang and stopped following him. After all, we used to follow this way. A secret guard said fearfully. How can Zhang Liu be arrested after entering Duan Jiafang? Li San asked in confusion. A craftsman said, unless Fangding is in contact at that time, there will be no Fangding patrolling the street in front of Duan's house. It's a well-planned plan. It seems that they have been preparing for this matter for more than a day or 2. Xiao Ming smiled bitterly. Speaking of which, the secret guards have not been established for a long time, and Zhao has been passed down from generation to generation, so King Zhao naturally has a mature intelligence system. And his secret guards are still a little tender. Zhang Liu is one of the core craftsmen of the equipment division. He not only participates in the refining of steel, but is also a core member of the production of artillery. He also participated in the production of hydraulic forging machines. If Zhang Liu was kidnapped, It would mean that all the craftsmanship Zhang Liu mastered would likely be acquired by others, which would lead to very serious consequences. Find it for me. Even if the King's Hao city is turned upside down, you have to find someone for me. Xiao Ming said. Li San said angrily, Your Highness, why don't you just arrest Zhao Quan and interrogate him strictly? Do you have any evidence? Zhang Liu was captured by which force, are you sure? Xiao Ming asked. Li San looked ashamed and shook his head. Xiao Ming said, Secret Guard's work is still not rigorous enough. You are responsible for Li San. Li San knelt down and said, I also ask your highness to punish you. If you are punished or not, it depends on whether you can commit crimes and make meritorious deeds. Zhang Liu must not leave this king's fief. Xiao Ming said solemnly, Yes, your highness, I'll do it now. Li San was annoyed. This time he was tricked, which was a provocation to him. When he got up, he looked at the secret guard who had lost Zhang Liu and said, What are you still doing? Immediately notify all the secret guards, and use all your eyeliners to find Zhang Liu. His highness cut off my head, and I cut off your head. The secret guard shivered with fright, and immediately left the equipment department. Li San also turned and left Chen Wen on site at this moment. His Royal Highness, there are so many craftsmen, and the number of secret guards is limited, and it is impossible for everyone to watch so carefully. Now there are so many fine works in King's Hao, it is impossible to guard against it. You have to think of a safe way. Xiao Ming nodded. You're right, it's just too difficult. Since ancient times, these spies have been a very difficult group to guard against. The most effective way to deal with spies is spies, that is, the secret guards headed by Li San and Wang Zhuan. In addition, regardless of the equipment department, the military workshop, or other workshops, the craftsmen who master the core secrets will sign a confidentiality contract. The contract clearly stipulates that anyone who leaks the secrets of King's Hao will be punished severely. This is to prevent being bought by spies from the level of craftsmen, but this time neither he nor Li San thought that this fine work would be so bold that people would be directly kidnapped. He was worried when Li San came back suddenly, and Wang Zhuan came in with him. I saw Li San's unhappy face, and Wang Zhuan said with a smile, Your Highness, the person who stole Zhang Liu was caught by me, but this person claims to be the Prince of Zhao, and I hope His Highness will deal with him. Caught? How did you catch him? Xiao Ming asked in confusion. The secret guards are now divided into left guards and right guards. Currently, Li San is in charge of fiefdoms, while Wang Zhuan is mainly responsible for external intelligence spying. Wang Zhuan said, His Royal Highness, this incident is a coincidence. Li San would never recruit the gangsters on the market to become secret guards, but in my opinion, these people are the most suitable for eyeliners, so I have long since introduced them. A group of people entered the secret guard. Similarly, the merchants in Saoti seemed to buy some street ruffians just as I thought, but one of them was a secret guard. After learning about this, I asked him to be counted. Just to see what these Zhao businessmen want to do? I never thought that they were temporarily ordered to kidnap Zhang Liu today. After a pause, Wang Zhuan continued, The time is very tight at this time, so I did not notify Li San, and took the secret guard to rob the carriage halfway along the way. Hearing this, Xiao Ming breathed a sigh of relief. He invested a lot of money and manpower. After all, this secret guard had some effect. Wang Zhuan, you deliberately want me to be embarrassed in front of your highness. Li Sanai looked aggrieved, and there was no chance for him to take guilt and make meritorious deeds. Chapter 241 Kill. The atmosphere in the equipment department was a little more relaxed because of Wang Zhuan's words. Xiao Ming said at this time, You still have the guts to say that if it wasn't for Wang Zhuan this time, this king would have chopped off your head. Li San lowered his head. Wang Zhuan said, His Royal Highness, Li Dutong's arrangement has been very careful, but it is obvious that King Zhao's people are superior, and their flying pigeon biography is difficult to detect. Pass the order on. You don't need to intercede for me. I lost to you this time because I, Li San, are not good at learning and skills. I am willing to be punished. Li San said. Xiao Ming glanced at Li San. Although you are self-aware, the two of you, one for the inside and one for the outside, are the right and left hands of this king, and also the eyes of this king. Nowadays, there are more and more detailed works in King's Hao City, and this king can't restrict trade because of this matter, so the two of you are the main thing in dealing with meticulous work, and if there is news in the future, we must communicate with each other. Yes. The two responded. Then Xiao Ming said, Also, what this king taught you should not be hidden and taught to every secret guard, so that excellent talents can be selected. Otherwise one in negligence will lead to complete loss. The two nodded again. After talking about the two of them, Xiao Ming followed Wang Zhuan to Nancheng. According to Wang Zhuan, The carriage was stopped when it was going to Nanchang Gate. Zhao Yuanlian should have wanted to use his identity to take Zhang Liu out of the city, and Zhao Yuanlian came out as a bodyguard, and also confused the restaurant shopkeeper who was in chaos at the time in an alley not far from the South City Gate. Zhao Ming saw Zhao Yuanlian, who was furious seeing Zhao Ming coming over. Zhao Yuanlian said angrily, "Zhao Ming, you are so rude." Zhao Ming said lightly, "This king is rude? Is it the etiquette for the craftsmen of the Shizi to loot the equipment department to come to my king's house? I didn't loot him, but a few street ruffians stuffed him into my carriage. I saw that he was seriously injured and took him back for treatment. Does this also offend His Highness?" Zhao Yuanlian quibbled. "Zhao Yuanlian, you really don't cry without seeing the coffin." Zhao Ming said, "You will understand later, but now you can only feel wronged. Come on. Send the prince back to the Wei family restaurant for protection." What Zhao Ming did was basically under house arrest. Zhao Yuanlian said angrily, "Zhao Ming, you dare? I am the eldest son of King Zhao, and the queen of the dynasty is my aunt, and even His Majesty has to give me 3 points of face, so you are not afraid of offending them. This king is the prince of the dynasty, and His Majesty is my father, so aren't you afraid of offending me?" Zhao Ming sneered, waved his hand, and the soldiers immediately held Zhao Yuanlian and turned him back to the Wei family restaurant. At this time, Zhang Liu was still in a coma, with bloodstains on the back of his head, and he was still in a coma, so he said, "Send Zhang Liu back, and immediately arrest the person who attacked Zhang Liu, and at the same time arrest those who participated in the incident." Catch yes. Li San responded and turned to leave. Wang Zhuan said, "His Royal Highness, why should this Prince Zhao be polite to him? Just beat him and drive him away. It's not time to tear his face yet, it's enough to teach him a lesson. The most important thing this time is to uproot the meticulous work that King Zhao buried in King Zhao." This Zhao Yuanlian is irrelevant. Wang Zhuan nodded, then he said, "His Royal Highness, in addition to this, I have one more thing to tell Your Highness." This time Wang Zhuan usually talks about the barbarians. He said, "Is there something wrong with the barbarians?" "Yes. I have received the exact news that Beishan is organizing artisans who were looted from the Ottoman Empire to forge artillery." Wang Zhuan looked serious. "Ottoman craftsmen?" Zhao Ming sighed. "Yes, the barbarians have captured many craftsmen of the Ottoman Empire on several expeditions to the west. This time, Beishan paid more attention to artillery, and asked the craftsmen of the Ottoman Empire, but he really found a few who participated in the forging of the artillery of the Ottoman Empire artisans." Zhao Ming frowned. "Do you have any news about the power of the Ottoman Empire artillery?" "This is not the case. After all, the Ottoman Empire and the Great Yu Kingdom are too far apart." Wang Zhuan said. Zhao Ming nodded. Everything was as he thought. When a new type of weapon appeared on the battlefield, the enemy would definitely follow suit. Beishan's actions prove this, but his artillery skills come from the technical level of the end of the 18th century. He is not too worried. Now, with the sights and the upgrade of gunpowder, I believe that even if the barbarians produce artillery, it is not him. Artillery equivalent opponent, but even so, it will make his war with the barbarians very difficult." Wang Zhuan continued, "Moreover, I also received news that Beishan said in Chengdu that if the artillery was developed, he would attack King Zhao again, proving the power of the artillery." Zhao Ming frowned. This Beishan had to be said to be a very flexible guy. He said, "This king is waiting for him, then give him a shot of lead, and continue to watch the barbarian movement. If anything happens, tell me immediately." Wang Zhuan nodded and turned to leave. This time, there were no surprises, but thanks to Wang Zhuan's carefulness, he was stronger than Li San. At this point at noon, Li San found him with a bloody aura. "His Royal Highness, the 2 recruited, and the merchants from Zhaoland were all arrested, and they also admitted that they were ordered by Zhao Quan. It was so easy to recruit, I thought it was a group of dead men." Zhao Ming said unexpectedly. Li San said, "No matter how hard the bones are, they are not as hard as the criminal law methods taught by His Royal Highness. They only admitted it after cutting more than 100 knives. In that case, let's go meet Zhao Yuanlian, and we should send him away." Zhao Ming sneered. In the Wei family restaurant, Zhao Yuanlian gave Zhao Quan a slap in the face. "Didn't you say it's foolproof? How could there be such a big mistake? This time, our work in King Zhao is about to end. How do you ask me to go back and explain to my father?" Zhao Yuanlian said angrily. "His Royal Highness, I didn't expect that ruffian to hold money at both ends, otherwise this matter would not fail." Zhao Quan said while covering his face. His well-thought-out plan was lost because of one detail. The two were arguing when the door of the room was opened and Zhao Ming walked in. "Prince, the evidence is here, do you have anything else to say?" Xiao Ming threw the indictment book according to his fingerprints in front of Zhao Yuanliang. The names on the incrimination book were reflected in Zhao Yuanliang's eyes one by one. Blood was dripping in his heart, and all the chess pieces buried in King Zhao were actually removed. He said, "Xiao Ming, you are fine, let's see." After all, Zhao Yuanliang was about to leave with Zhao Quan at this time. Li Sam quickly stepped forward, a silver light flashed in his hand. Zhao Quan covered his neck and made a goo-goo sound. Blood was flowing. Chapter 242 Overkill. The stench of fresh blood permeated the room. Zhao Quan looked at Zhao Yuanliang with a prayer in his eyes before he died. It's just that his vision became more and more blurred and gradually lost his focus. "Xiao Ming, what are you trying to do? If you kill me, aren't you afraid of Zhao's 300,000 black armored cavalry?" Zhao Yuanliang staggered back, his face pale as paper. Xiao Ming glanced at Zhao Yuanliang's dog-headed military advisor, and he said, "This king's goal is only the barbarians, and I never want to focus too much energy on infighting. It's just that the prince made a move, and I had to take it. This matter killed Zhao Quan is to remind the prince that this king is not the king of Qi that you used to take care of. If you provoke me, you have to think about paying the price." Zhao Yuanliang was shocked by Xiao Ming's murderous words. His face turned paler, and he nodded unconsciously. Then Xiao Ming said, "If you don't speak up, I won't speak up. If you preach in the court, I won't be afraid of you. Shizi, your carriage is ready, please come back, but if you have artillery, if I'm willing to continue to buy it, I'm still willing to sell it." 20,000 taels of door, not even a single child. Zhao Yuanliang's body trembled a little, looked at Xiao Ming deeply, and went downstairs. Xiao Ming said to Li San at this time, "Let your people follow until he leaves the king's fief." Li San nodded, looked at Zhao Quan who was in a pool of blood, and sneered in his heart. This incident is indeed a lesson for Xiao Ming. With the development of King Zhao in the future, this detailed problem may become more and more serious, and the most important thing is that some fine works may never be discovered for a lifetime. Even if modern technology is so developed, the problem of spying is still a headache, and there is another problem that these meticulous works will instigate backlash and bribe the local people to do things for themselves. This time, the 3 street ruffians who were turned against were the case. If one of them had not already taken refuge with a secret guard, Zhang Liyu would probably never have come back. Therefore, after thinking about it, Xiao Ming is going to strengthen the awareness of some fiefdoms against meticulous work on this issue, and at the same time he is going to issue a decree. This law is called the Prevention of Minority Act. Back at the palace, Xiao Ming wrote down all the specific terms of the decree. Then he wrote an anti-detailed work manual. After writing these 2 things, he called Fan Zheng to the palace. The 2 articles will be published in the newspaper tomorrow, 2 pages. Xiao Ming said. Fan Zheng picked up 2 articles and read them. Among them, Article 1 of the Prevention of Minority Act reads, "In order to prevent, stop and punish meticulous behavior, and maintain the security of fiefs, this law is specially formulated." Article 2, the people of the fiefs have the obligation to maintain the security, honor and interests of the fiefdom, and must not have any behavior that endangers the safety, honor and interests of the fiefdom. All fiefdom institutions have the obligation to prevent and stop meticulous behavior and maintain the security of the fiefdom. In the espionage work, we must rely on the support of the common people, and organize the common people to prevent and stop meticulous acts that endanger the security of the fief. Article 3, any organization, or individual outside the fiefdom committed or instigated or funded by others, or any organization, or individual within the fiefdom colluded with the organization, or individual outside the fiefdom to endanger the security of the fiefdom. He was severely punished, and the people who supported and assisted in the work of anti-detailed work were protected, and those who had made great contributions were rewarded. There are many more detailed rules below. Fine work? Fan Zheng came across this term for the first time, and he felt a chill behind him. He said, "Your Highness, should the newspaper office also prevent meticulous work?" "Of course, meticulous work is all-pervasive. After you go back, you should talk about this law in the newspaper office and prevent each other from doing some meticulous behavior." Meticulous behavior? What is careful behavior? Fan Zheng wondered. Xiao Ming pursed his lips and gestured to the anti-detailed workbook, and Fan Zheng looked at it again. This anti-Zizuo handbook first puts forward 5 general outlines. 1. What does Zizuo do? 2nd, who will become Zizuo? 3rd, the performance of instigating rebellion and making rumors in life, and 4th, those who carry out Zizuo activities in the name of preaching. False clergy. 5. The first identification of the junior staff to pull people into the gang. Next, for the first point, Xiao Ming wrote that the detailed work mainly carried out acts such as spying on intelligence, analyzing intelligence, bribing important personnel, spreading rumors, and passing information. Then for other articles, Xiao Ming wrote very detailed. After reading these contents, Fan Zheng basically understood what meticulous work is, the harm of meticulous work to the thief, and the usual behavior of meticulous work after living for so long. This is the first time that Xiaoguan knows that fine work is everywhere. Fan Zheng said. Xiao Ming smiled and said, "Is there still more that you don't know? Don't delay, it will be published overnight, and this time it will be distributed for free." "Yes, Your Highness." Fan Zheng said. The next day, the peaceful King Zhao was once again ignited by the contents of the newspaper. At the same time, the government ordered that the militiamen in each village should cooperate with the government to carry out countermeasures. At the same time, the equipment department and the workshop set off an upsurge of anti-detailed work. According to the content of the newspaper, their eyes began to focus on the people who behaved abnormally. For a time, many people who were suspected to be meticulous works were sent to the government office, and the name of folk meticulous works became the object of insults by the people. Kill him, kill him. The scumbag, who sells the thief, is extremely shameless. On the streets of King Zhao, 2 local gangsters were paraded in a prison car, and the people kept smashing rotten vegetables, mud, and stones at the 2. A burst of scolding shouted from the mouths of the people, and the voice contained anger. It was very clear in the newspaper that the meticulous actions of the 2 men seriously endangered the security of the thief and the security of the Great Yu Kingdom. The people are naturally unhappy. Now the good days have just begun, and some people sell the interests of the thief, and they can't wait to beat the 2 to death. A father said to his son, "If you don't see it, this is the end of the fine work. You must not be the fine work, or your father will not recognize you as a son. You are going to be a meticulous work, and I don't recognize you as a father." The young man said sternly. In the crowd, there were also some merchants, servants, and the people looked a little weird. In the corner, a merchant said to another merchant, "Don't act rashly during this time, lest it be exposed. This King Qi is really cruel. How did he come up with this idea? I just asked a little about King Zhao on the way, and a commoner asked me if I did it carefully. You just came to King Zhao, and you are already lucky." Most of the people who came before were turned by the people and sent to the government office. Another businessman said. The 2 sighed at the same time and left slowly. The publication of the newspaper has aroused a vigorous upsurge of anti-detailed work among the people of the 6 states. For Xiao Ming, this matter continues for a period of time to purify the thief environment. Sometimes it is necessary to overcorrect. Chapter 243 Cotton. King Zhao Equipment Division. The promulgation of the Anti-Subtle Handling Decree and the popularization of the people's knowledge of fine production made the various forces hidden in King Zhao suddenly unable to lift their heads at the same time. In order to further prevent King Zhao's technology from being stolen, Xiao Ming plans to refine various technical jobs. For example, in the production of artillery, the refining of steel, the manufacture of iron molds, the post-casting, and the production of cannonballs are completely independent, and in each process, the types of work are divided in detail. Each craftsman is only responsible for part of the process, and the others are not involved at all in doing so. This will greatly reduce the risk of technology being stolen. On this day, Xiao Ming handed over the carefully designed process to Chen Wenlong, and asked him to rectify the equipment department according to the process to prevent minor problems. After receiving the thick booklet, Chen Wenlong admired Xiao Ming more and more. During this time, various books entered the equipment department, the military workshop, and the Bowen Academy from the Qi Palace. These were all written by Xiao Ming, stroke by stroke, and then let the newspaper office published books in the Great Yu Kingdom. Books have always been extremely precious, but in King Zhao, the cost of books has been greatly reduced. Handing over the process manual to Chen Wenlong, Xiao Ming asked, "Can the Wangdaopo loom be delivered now, His Royal Highness?" "It's all right, the subordinate is about to tell you about this." Chen Wenlong took Xiao Ming to the backyard of the equipment division, where 100 sets of looms are placed here. This is the famous Wangdaopo loom, a loom that turns single thread into multi-thread weaving. Once this loom is put into use, the efficiency of King Zhao's textile industry will increase more than 10 times. Xiao Ming is now waiting for the loom, and the weaving workshop of Aster and Luluo is waiting to be used. Once the loom is put into use, his sailing warship will not have a headache because of the sails. It's all shipped away. This king will use it now. Xiao Ming said to Chen Wenlong with a joy in his heart. With all the looms, Xiao Ming returned to the palace. Seeing the loom arrived, Aster and Luluo ran out of the palace excitedly. Your Highness, is this the Wangdeopo loom you were talking about? Aster said excitedly. Luluo and Aster are both proficient in women's weaving. The two follow concubine Zhen's site and often do some female reds with concubine Zhen. At this time, Luluo touched Aster and said, "Sister, this loom can spin 10 threads at the same time. Look at this shuttle." Seeing Aster, she immediately laughed. "Your Highness, take these looms to the workshop. The slaves can't wait to try them out." Qingzhou City is very big, and heavy industries such as iron and steel have been moved outside the city by Xiaoming, but this weaving is a light industry, so the workshop is in the city. Moreover, in order to facilitate Aster and Luluo to supervise the textile workshop from time to time, the location of this workshop is not far, only 2 private workshops away from the palace. There is a large yard in this private workshop, and there are 5 long rows of brick houses in the yard. When he arrived at the textile workshop, Xiaoming asked someone to bring the loom in the textile workshop. "Will depend on you in the future. Are the soldiers of the Qingzhou army still waiting for your uniforms?" Now that the textile workshop is fully equipped, Xiaoming said with a smile. Aster said generously, "Your Highness, if this loom is really as magical as you said, this matter is still very simple for us. Don't talk too much. This king has always looked at actual work." Xiaoming smiled. Aster stuck out her tongue, pulled Luluo and sat in front of a Huangdeopo loom and tried to control it. Familiar with Huangdeopo's loom, Aster said, "Your Highness, since this is the case, we have called people here, but what about the cotton? In this case, Li Keitun and I will try our best to provide enough cotton. You are only responsible for weaving." Xiaoming frowned. Aster and Luluo nodded. The two discussed it, and divided the labor to prepare for the start of the textile workshop. And Xiaoming went to the governor's mansion and called Li Keitun over at the same time. "His Royal Highness, if we want to promote cotton cultivation, we must start now, otherwise it will be too late after winter." Pang Yukin said to Xiaoming, "Once the textile workshop is established, this is the beginning of the Qingzhou textile industry. In the later stage, once the steam engine comes out, he will have the opportunity to produce a Jenny textile machine. At that time, the textile industry will need more cotton. After all, he wants to monopolize the textile industry." "Li Keitun, did you hear it? This cotton seed is up to you," Xiaoming said to Li Keitun. Hearing this, Li Keitun showed a wry smile. "His Royal Highness, this matter is difficult to handle. Now the cotton cultivation in the Great Yu Kingdom is mainly in the south, and the main source of cotton is the fief of the King of Chu, and during this time our Chamber of Commerce communicated with each other. In the Great Yu Kingdom, there are many things that make things difficult in the fiefs of the King of Chu, and now we go to buy cotton and cotton seeds. Will the King of Chu agree?" The King of Chu was also the mother's family of the third prince's mother. His ambitions had always been great. Nanshuian and Baizialian, these 4 different surnamed vassal kings were the most dangerous. Pang Yukin nodded. Li Keitun's words are correct, but at this time, the King of Chu must have asked His Highness, "Are you talking about the artillery?" Xiaoming asked. Pang Yukin nodded. "This cotton has been planted in the south since it was introduced into the Great Yu Kingdom, especially the King of Chu, who has always attached great importance to the cultivation of cotton, and the Kingdom of Chu is rich in cloth. This alone has made the King of Chu a good income. Therefore, the King of Chu has always been very vigilant about the purchase of cotton seeds from outsiders, and even if we introduce cotton, it will take some time for the planting and promotion, and during this time, we can only buy cotton from the state of Chu." "Well, what you said makes sense, but the royal father is still hesitating whether to give artillery to King Wei and King Chu. If we agree, we can hold him. If we don't agree, we can only be held by the King of Chu." Xiaoming said. This cotton thing once again made Xiaoming feel that his hands were tied. Cotton was introduced into Diu from Xianzhou, so cotton was first promoted in the south. While there were few places to grow cotton in the north, it can be said that the prosperity of the south is also related to cotton. After all, having cotton is equivalent to having cloth. However, even if the state of Chu can exchange cotton for artillery, Xiaoming is still not at ease. He needs 2 trade routes. One is the fief of the King of Chu, and the other is going south to Xianzhou to obtain cotton from the origin of cotton. Will not be restrained by the King of Chu in this way. He needs to let Yu Yun and others control the sailing warship as soon as possible to escort a caravan. However, the most practical way at present is to buy cotton from the fief of the King of Chu. He said to Li Keitun, "You should organize a caravan to buy cotton from the fief of the King of Chu, and the Chamber of Commerce will also start to buy cotton in Qingzhou. It has not been decided yet, The king of Chu still does not dare to take hold of this king during this time, because he offends this king at this time, and then this king will be able to use artillery to hold him down. Yes, your highness. Lee Kaden said. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 The Birth of the Glass Mirror. His Royal Highness, it seems that agriculture is still the foundation of the country. Cotton, rapeseed, hemp, etc., are the next steps to promote the cultivation of fiefdom. Xiaoming had a headache for cotton, and Pang Yukin took the opportunity to say that he felt that Xiaoming paid too much attention to the handicraft industry during this time, but ignored the fundamentals of agriculture. You are right, but there is still insufficient food, so it may be difficult for people to grow these things. After all, they have to bear the risk of not being able to sell them at that time. Well, let the production corps do part of the planting first and wait for the production of food. Stabilize and continue to promote, Xiaoming said. Pang Yukin nodded. During this time, he and Xiaoming have been planning the agriculture and industry of the 6 states, which are all included in the plan. Also, Your Highness, what is this new item? At the last banquet, Xiaoming threw another bait, but because of the meticulous work, everyone ignored it, and now Pang Yukin mentioned it again. Mirror. Thinking of this new product, Xiaoming laughed. Yugo is still using bronze mirrors. This kind of mirror is very blurry, and it is impossible to see the specific details of the face. The modern mirror is a glass mirror, and the mirror is coated with aluminum behind the mirror, so that the mirror can clearly reflect the person. However, it is impossible for Xiaoming to extract aluminum now, because the extraction of aluminum requires electrolysis, and the traditional silver mirror reaction requires nitric acid, ammonia water, glucose, etc. He also has no way to produce mirrors by electroless silver plating. After all, some industrial products simply cannot be produced without electricity. After thinking about it, he thought that under the current conditions, he could only use glass, tin foil, and mercury to obtain a mirror. Mirrors? Bronze mirrors? There are so many in the Great Yu Kingdom. I don't think there's anything novel about it. Pang Yukin said. Xiaoming shook his head and said, this time this king is going to produce glass mirrors. I will show it to you in 2 days. Li Kai looked excited. After waiting for so long, he finally had new products. He could already imagine that the merchants would block the Chamber of Commerce again. Thinking of this, he couldn't help smirking seeing his wretched face. Xiaoming reminded, the task now is to purchase cotton. If the sailing of this king's fleet is delayed, let me see how I will deal with you. Li Kai shuddered. Yes, Your Highness, I will do it now, but Your Highness, this mirror should be hurry up. After speaking, he laughed slyly again. This king is going to Bowen College to talk to Lu Tong about the silver mirror. As he said, Xiaoming stood up. After all, Xiaoming and Li Kai left the governor's mansion together. One of them went to the Chamber of Commerce and the other went to Bowen College. When Pang Yukin mentioned new products a few days ago, Xiaoming told Lu Tong about preparing the mirror and asked him to prepare tin, mercury and other materials. Although Xiaoming did not find any local deposits of tin, tin is a very common metal in the Great Yu Kingdom, and the alloy of copper and tin is bronze. This bronze ware appeared in ancient times. The same is true for mercury. In ancient times, mercury was still a medicinal material, and it was not difficult to obtain mercury. The preparation of mercury was also very simple. It was to heat cinnabar to obtain mercury, and sulfur in cinnabar is something that can often be seen in Taoist alchemy pill recipes, which shows how common it is. When he arrived at Bowen College, Xiaoming went directly to the chemistry laboratory. At this time, Lu Tong was waiting for Xiaoming. Your Highness. Seeing Xiaoming coming, Lu Tong led a group of students to bow to Xiaoming. Xiaoming nodded and asked, how is it? Are the materials ready? It's all right, Lu Tong said. Then he took Xiaoming to see the mercury and tin in the glass container, and there was a pile of glass on the table in front. Since the preparation of sulfuric acid, the students of the entire School of Chemistry have been producing granular gunpowder. Now, among the 3 acids and 2 alkalis, sulfuric acid, caustic soda, and soda ash have been prepared, but nitric acid and hydrochloric acid have not been tried. However, in the chemistry textbook Xiaoming gave them, there was already a method on how to prepare nitric acid and hydrochloric acid. During this time, Lu Tong was preparing to try it with the students of the chemistry college. Among them, Nitric acid is prepared by decomposing saltpeter at high temperature and high heat to obtain nitrogen dioxide into water, and hydrochloric acid is prepared by using concentrated sulfuric acid and table salt. Of course, this is only the chemical reaction formula they have learned from chemistry textbooks, and specific operations are required. Just do it. But looking at Xiaoming's appearance, it seems that he just wants to give them the chemical knowledge, and let them study the rest by themselves. After checking the materials, Xiaoming said, "Let's start." I said, "You do it." Lu Tong nodded. Now Xiaoming has a faint meaning of letting go of his hands and letting them try everything by themselves. In fact, Xiaoming also knows what Lu Tong and others are thinking now, but there is no way. Knowledge is not stored in his head, but used for practice. During this time, Xiaoming has handed over all chemical element symbols to Lu Tong. They are also clear about the periodic table of chemistry. His textbooks can be said to be much more carefully written than the junior high school chemistry textbooks, and some simple chemical reaction formulas above are all available. For the rest, he can only rely on Lu Tong and others to realize the chemical experiments in the chemistry textbooks, so as to apply them in the chemical industry. Otherwise, what is the use of learning knowledge? Moreover, with the current level of science and technology in Dao Kingdom, junior high school chemistry knowledge is more than enough, and advanced chemistry will involve electrolysis and the like. Without electricity, learning is useless. Taking a piece of glass, Lu Tong put a piece of tin foil on the back of the glass. Because the melting point of tin is very low, only over 200 degrees, melting the tin foil is very simple. Just heat it a little. After wrapping the tin foil, Lu Tong took out the mercury and poured the mercury on the tin foil, smearing it evenly. At this time, the mercury and the tin foil reacted chemically and turned into a silver-white liquid. This is the tin amalgam. According to historical records, the solution produced by this mercury and tin existed in the spring and autumn period and the warring states period, and although the mercury was poisonous, but amalgam alloys are non-toxic, this silvery white liquid adheres tightly to one side of the glass and will not fall off easily. The steps of producing the mirror were completed one by one. Xiaoming and Lu Tong quietly waited for the moment when the miracle appeared. After half an hour, when the metal solution was completely dry, Xiaoming picked up the mirror and saw himself clearly in the mirror. A little handsome face. "Hey, it's been a year, I can see my face clearly for the first time." Xiaoming sighed with emotion. At this time, the mirror in his hand was not much different from the modern mirror, but it was a little dim. After all, the tin amalgam was not as shiny as silver, but even so, this mirror is probably a shocking work. Chapter 245 Shocking Effect. "My mother, Your Highness, is this me?" A voice came, and at the same time, Lu Tong's dirty face was reflected in the mirror. Even bronze mirrors are a luxury in Dao Kingdom, because bronze mirrors need to be polished repeatedly to make them look good. Naturally, this price is not affordable for ordinary people. Therefore, ordinary people basically can't look in the mirror, and can only use water to see their appearance. The effect is naturally not as shocking as the glass mirror. Who else could it be if you weren't? "Look, the booger is still hanging on your mouth, so don't wipe it," Xiaoming said. "Where?" Lu Tong took the mirror and looked at himself. He buttoned his booger, then looked left and right in the mirror, staring from time to time, frowning, and having fun. The students in the back had long been impatient, and said, "Let me see, and I want to see too." Lu Tong couldn't stand the demands of so many people, so he handed the mirror to the students with some reluctance. Immediately, the students fried the pot. "You competed with me to grab them." They looked in the mirror one by one. From time to time, they heard, "I am so handsome, you are so ugly, my face has not been washed." Class discourse. Looking at the chaos of the crowd, Xiaoming was slightly proud. It seemed that this mirror was going to become another sensational commodity in the great Yu Kingdom after soap, fine wine, and perfume. Lu Tong sighed and said to Xiaoming, "Your Highness, this little slave really admires His Highness." How did His Highness come up with these things? When Xiaoming heard the words, he lightly laughed twice. "These are nothing, these things are just petty troubles, and the products that will shock the great Yu Kingdom will only be one after another." The students experienced the charm of mirrors one by one. At this time, Xiaoming said to Lu Tong, "The rest of the glass will be handed over to you." Lu Tong nodded and greeted the students. The students swarmed up and picked up the materials to produce mirrors in groups of 3. Xiaoming was waiting for them in the laboratory. When the 20 mirrors were produced, he had someone paint a layer of black paint on the surface of the tin amalgam. This black paint came from lacquered wood and belonged to natural paint. Xiaoming did this to protect the tin amalgam surface from being damaged. At the same time, These mirrors will also be mounted in wooden frames and have exquisite shapes. After all, goods also need to be packaged. After taking the mirrors from the chemical laboratory, Xiaoming handed them over to woodworkers to handle and mount them. These work continued for 3 more days, and 20 exquisite glass mirrors were officially born. And when these exquisite glass mirrors were sent to Prince Qi's mansion, Zuan and Luo immediately fell in love with them. Cough, I said you too, it's been half an hour, why isn't it enough? The mirrors delivered this time were of different sizes. Among them was a full-length mirror, customized by Xiaoming. The mirror was 2 meters high and 50 centimeters wide. This mirror was placed in Xiaoming's bedroom. Master and Luo came back from the textile workshop and saw this mirror, and immediately became addicted to it. After asking what was going on at this time, the two stayed in his bedroom and did not leave, and kept stinking His Royal Highness, give us a mirror. This mirror is amazing. After using this glass mirror, how can we use a bronze mirror in the future? Aster came to Xiaoming, shaking Xiaoming's arm and acting like a spoiled child. Luo is still giggling in front of the mirror, as if she has completely forgotten everything outside. Looking at the silly looks of the two of them, Xiaoming's eyes narrowed into crescent moons, but he still said solemnly, this is not easy, you and this king can use one together, this mirror is expensive. This king is very poor. As soon as Aster saw this glass mirror, it was like a bee seeing honey, and there was no one in her daughter's family who didn't love beauty, especially maids like Aster and Luo. Therefore, Aster's eyes brightened, and her love for mirrors was revealed. Xiaoming laughed more and more happily, and playing with the 2 little maids was a rare pleasure in his life. Aster worried and said, Your Highness, that's inappropriate. If Pang Changshi finds out, he will definitely call us arrogant. Luo agreed, yes, Pang Changshi is very fierce. Xiaoming rolled his eyes. He is not afraid of Pang Yukan now. He can still be tied up in a rebirth. He said, it's fine to give each of you a mirror, but what? Aster and Luo looked expectant. Xiaoming narrowed his eyes, with a wicked smile on the corner of his mouth, and said a few words in the ears of Aster and Luo. The two of them were immediately embarrassed when they heard the words, but Xiaoming left the palace with a big laugh. When he came out of the palace, he went directly to the Chamber of Commerce. Now that the mirror came out, it was time to use the mirror to ease the money problem in the King's Hao treasury. This time he is optimistic about the future of the mirror, because there is such a record in the technology library. When the contemporary French Queen Marie de Medici got married, the King of Venice gave her a small glass mirror as a gift. The value of this glass mirror was as high as 150,000 francs. The reason why the mirror was so expensive was that at that time there were only Venice would make this fine glass mirror. The factory of this mirror was located on the isolated island of Milano. At that time, France even used despicable means to secretly kidnap several mirror technicians in order to obtain the secret of making mirrors. Because of this, a mirror factory appeared in Normandy in France in 1666, and since then, the glass mirror manufacturing technology began to spread in Europe. At that time, the gold content of the franc was 0.3 grams, and the high price of 150,000 francs showed the high value of the mirror at that time. Therefore, this time the mirror Xiaoming intends to make it the favorite of the aristocratic class of the Great Yu Kingdom, and let it be sold as a high-end luxury product, so that his mirror is equivalent to modern Rolex, Chanel, LV at the same time. This time, the back of the mirror is also engraved with Made in King's Hao. Xiaoming is creating a local brand in King's Hao, the Great Yu country, invisibly. After arriving at the Chamber of Commerce with a mirror, Li Keun, who got the news, came to Xiaoming like the wind. His Royal Highness, where's the mirror? Li Keun said anxiously, looking impatient for Li Keun. Every time Xiaoming goes to the Chamber of Commerce, it basically means the birth of a new product. At this time, Xiaoming asked the servant to take out the mirror covered by the cloth. My mother. Li Keun took a step back when he saw the mirror. He thought that there was a person inside. After a closer look, he realized that this person was familiar. Isn't this himself? In an instant, Li Keun was shocked. He almost looked at the mirror and muttered, Your Highness, this time we are going to make a fortune again. Chapter 246. Your Majesty, there are assassins. Have you heard? The Chamber of Commerce is going to hold a trade fair in the East City. I heard that there are new products coming out. Really? Then let's go soon. It is said that the fair will last for 7 days. After this village, there will be no such store. The next day, the words trade fair and mirror roared on the front pages of King's Hao newspapers. Pan Zhen once again caused waves in the hearts of merchants in King's Hao. Many merchants in the first 3 commodities missed business opportunities, and they still regret it. Now they will not miss this opportunity again. So when they saw the newspaper, they flocked to the East City at this time. Many scholars also saw the contents of the newspaper, and out of curiosity, they also went to the East City to join in the fun. This fair is naturally Xiaoming's idea. No matter how good the mirror is, it must show its true face and let others feel it. Therefore, this fair is very necessary. First, it can show the charm of the mirror, and secondly, it can also allow businessmen to spread the magic of the mirror and expand the influence of the mirror. At this time, in the East City, a small area was surrounded by soldiers, and everyone was not allowed to approach the mirror within 3 meters, and in a place surrounded by ropes, a dozen mirrors are displayed. The merchants in front saw themselves clearly through the mirror, and they were so excited that they refused to leave in front of the mirror. Did I say you've seen enough? The businessman at the back was already impatient. Let others see it too. The businessman in front was fascinated by the mirror and didn't bother to pay any attention. I'm here first. I want to watch it for as long as I want. Fuck you. The businessman at the back grabbed the businessman at the front and pushed him to the ground. Then he saw himself in the mirror, and he also had an obsessed look. The businessman behind him then repeated the same process for a time. The East City was in a state of chaos and chaos. From time to time, there were businessmen who disagreed with each other. They were all shocked by this magical mirror and just wanted to look at it for a while some businessmen who were responsive went directly to the Chamber of Commerce to find Li Keqian. Vice President Li, can you tell us about this mirror in advance? When a businessman spoke, he pushed a silver note worth more than 1,000 taels to Li Keqian. Li Keqian pushed back the silver note. He could learn Xiaoming's methods. If he really accepted the money, I am afraid that he would really be imprisoned. Xiaoming has always been very strict with the officials of the 6 states. At the meeting, Xiaoming made it very clear that the salary he paid to the officials of the 6 states was 3 times that of the officials of the Great Yu Kingdom, and the lowest one year was 36 taels of silver. Therefore, with such a high salary, his tolerance for corruption and bribery is 0. Once corruption is found out, it is not a matter of losing office. It is a light prison disaster, and a serious beheading. There is no room for negotiation. Li Keqian can be said to be a close official by Xiaoming's side. He will get a lot of money as a reward for credit on weekdays. It can be said that there is no shortage of money in his hands, and this makes him even less likely to accept bribes. You better take this back, otherwise I won't be able to talk to you about it today. Li Keqian put away his usual smile and said sternly. The businessman was stunned for a moment. It is a common practice in the Great Yu Kingdom. How can an official not accept money? This made him feel uneasy, and said, Vice President Li, is there less? Li Keqian said angrily, are you trying to kill me? Our Qingzhou government does not accept money. Take it back, and if you talk about it, you will just get out. The merchant's expression changed, and he put away the money at this time, and said with a smirk, in this case, I just want to ask Vice President Li, how is this mirror sold? When will it be sold? How? Li Keqian's face improved a bit. He said, His Royal Highness the Mirror has ordered that the agency will not be sold. If it is sold, it will be in these 2 days. As for how to sell, His Royal Highness said, there will be an auction. Auction? The businessman hesitated. Isn't it auctioning the right to sell? No, this auction of mirrors is fair and reasonable to everyone, and the mirror technology is very complicated and cannot be mass-produced, so this method can only be used. Li Keqian said this is what he and Xiaoming have planned. Since mirrors are luxury goods, this is the first time to make money, and auctions are the fastest way to make money. When Li Keqian was hanging on the businessman's appetite, Xiaoming also sent a mirror to Chang'an. This time there was only one mirror, and it was given to Xiao Wangxuan. This time Xiaoming was cruel. Because of the shocking effect of the mirror, he did not send it to Concubine Zhen, but after waiting for this period of time, he sent it to Concubine Zhen. The news of Li Keqian's oral release quickly spread among the merchants, and many merchants immediately began to prepare silver to buy mirrors for sale at this auction. The magical effect of the mirror also spread as the businessman returned to his hometown. Many ladies and wives of big families were planning to go to Qingzhou when they learned of the effect of the mirror. At this time, the mirror Xiaoming sent to Chang'an finally arrived and was transported back to the palace by Feng Deshu. Your Majesty, the things sent by King Qi have arrived in the dormitory. Xiao Wangxuan was grading the memorial when Feng Deshu walked in, and the 2 little Huangmen were carrying the mirror that had been covered up, slightly struggling. What did this King Qi give me? Xiaoming couldn't help but look forward to it when he spoke in his bedroom. At this time, there was the unified country that Xiaoming gave him, and there was a telescope on his table. He loved both of those things. The old slave also wants to know what surprises His Highness King Qi has brought to His Majesty this time. Feng Deshu smiled and gestured to Xiao Huangman at this time. The little yellow goalkeeper Hebula came down immediately. A mirror with a height of 2 meters and a width of 50 centimeters, with a carved dragon in a hollowed-out pure gold frame, appeared in front of Xiao Wangsun. Your Majesty, there are assassins. When Feng Deshu saw the person in the mirror for the first time, he hadn't reacted, and immediately screamed. Xiao Wangsun was also taken aback, but he was someone who had come through strong winds and waves, so he wouldn't be as rude as Feng Deshu. Upon closer inspection, he moved his hands cautiously, and the person in the mirror also moved his hands. Then he patted Feng Deshu. And the person in the mirror also patted the person next to him. At this time Xiao Wangsun already understood that the person in this mirror is the same as the person reflected in the bronze mirror. However, because it was too clear, at first glance it looked like a real person was standing inside, so it was no wonder that Feng Deshu was so shocked. Escort! At this moment, many guards rushed in. These guards came to Xiao Wangsun and saw the murderous soldiers in armor in the mirror. At a glance the guards drew their swords and rushed towards the mirror, shouting, "Bold traitor, die!" Xiao Wangsun only recovered from the shock at this time, and he hurriedly shouted, "Slow!" Chapter 247. Empress Zhao is not calm. The sharp long sword stopped only a few millimeters away from the mirror. The guards in front of the palace stopped in confusion, but still looked at the person in the mirror with the same armor as them. Xiao Wangsun heaved a sigh of relief. His heart almost mentioned his throat just now, because it was just an electric spark, and the mirror was about to shatter. Retreat. Xiao Wangsun ordered the guards. Feng Deshu only looked at the mirror seriously at this time, and then compared the people in the mirror, and suddenly burst into laughter. "Your Majesty, you look at this old slave really confused. How could His Highness King Qi assassinate His Majesty?" It turns out that this is a mirror. When the other guards heard the words, they also looked at the person in the mirror. In this comparison, they showed a stunned look. Why is the person in the mirror the same as themselves? Xiao Wangsun strode up to the mirror at this time, reached out and touched the cold mirror surface, feeling that his hand was blocked. A stone fell to the ground in his heart. It really was a mirror. Ha ha ha. Xiao Wangsun suddenly laughed happily, and this shock made the mirror even more extraordinary. Feng Deshu also burst into laughter. He walked to the mirror, touched the smooth surface, and said indifferently, "Yo, Your Majesty, why is this mirror made of glass?" "I'm afraid that's the case, but how did King Qi make this glass to be able to photograph people so clearly?" Xiao Wangsun said with a smile. "Your Majesty, don't you know King Qi? This idea is one after the other, but this mirror, His Royal Highness King Qi, only gave His Majesty one this time, and it is estimated that it is very precious." Feng Deshu said. Xiao Wangsun became more and more happy. He said, "Really? This King Qi has become more and more aware of how to behave in the world. I am very happy." "No, but Your Majesty, if the ladies in the harem knew about this mirror, how would you ask Your Majesty for this mirror?" Xiao Wangsun is more and more happy. Xiao Wangsun is also a person. As long as he is a person, there is a need to show off, especially when he gets such a shocking baby. He wants to share it with others. This psychological need exists in childhood. For example, children will always show off their new toys to others. In that case, let the queen and the others see it. After all, it's better to be alone than everyone else. Ha ha ha. Xiao Wangsun laughed again. Feng Deshu bowed and said, "Yes, Your Majesty, I'll tell the ladies now." After all, Feng Deshu smiled and backed out, while Xiao Wangsun stood in front of the mirror and looked at himself repeatedly. The more he looked, the more he liked it. After a while, a group of concubines arrived under the leadership of Empress Zhao. On the way, Feng Deshu had already told Empress Zhao about this magical mirror. Therefore, after entering the door, Queen Zhao and other concubines went directly to the mirror. When they saw themselves in the mirror, the concubines immediately showed shock, followed by excitement. Looking at the slender and graceful self in the mirror, Empress Zhao's eyes did not blink. In the palace, she also has a bronze mirror, and she looks into the mirror when she washes every day. But how can the hazy effect be compared with this glass mirror? The person standing in the mirror at this time is exactly the same as the real person. No wonder the guards didn't tell the truth. Your Majesty, is this the mirror the King Qi sent? Empress Zhao said with a hint of longing in her eyes. Xiao Wangsun said with a smile, "Exactly, Queen. What do you think of this mirror? It's so clever and amazing. Your Majesty, give this mirror to your concubine." In front of many concubines, Empress Zhao begged Xiao Wangsun with a slightly coquettish tone. For the first time the women in the harem are all arrogant, and who doesn't want a mirror to dress up herself, and this mirror is too perfect. Even she can't calm down at this time. When the other concubines heard the words, they were anxious and said eagerly, "Your Majesty, We want to. Xiao Wangsun was proud, and he said, cough, there's only one mirror, and I like it very much. Why don't I rush to ask King Qi if I can send some more at this time? Surrounded by a group of concubines, some were holding his arms, some were drilling into his arms, and facing the resentful eyes of many people, Xiao Wangsun couldn't help but couldn't resist, and repeatedly agreed at this time. Many concubines also thought of concubine Zhen, so they asked, sister, every time King Qi sends something to you, it will always be delivered to you. Isn't there a mirror in the Bishu pavilion? Yes, yes. At this time, the other concubines immediately surrounded concubine Zhen. Concubine Zhen gave a wry smile and said at this time, to be honest, there really isn't one this time. If it wasn't for His Majesty's summons, I really don't know about the mirror. This King Qi now only has the emperor in his eyes, and there is no mother like me already. When Xiao Wangsun heard the words, his heart became more and more joyful. From this, it was enough to see that Xiao Ming respected him, and his views on Xiao Ming changed again. Concubine Zhen's eyes flashed with wisdom. This time Xiao Ming really did the right thing. When the concubines heard the words, they were disappointed. There was only one mirror in front of them. They could only scramble to experience them one by one in front of the mirror. Even so, they were reluctant to part, and could not wait to stay in front of the mirror. Empress Zhao looked at the mirror and Xiao Wangsun again, sighing in her heart. Zhao Yuanlian left King Zhao and brought this complaint to her. This aunt of hers is also quite embarrassed. After all, the artillery matter is very important. Even if Xiao Ming kills Zhao Quan, it is to protect the artillery's secret from leaking. Given that Xiao Wangsun attaches great importance to artillery, I am afraid he will not be on the side of King Zhao. What's more, now this mirror makes Xiao Wangsun happy again. How can she say it? The concubines made a fuss for a while, and were driven back by Xiao Wangsun in reluctance. Soon, rumors about the magical mirror spread in Chang'an City. For example, when Feng Deshu saw the mirror for the first time, he was so frightened that he called the guards, and the concubines ran to Xiao Wangsun's bedroom all day long, and the courtiers quickly confirmed it, because they also saw the magical mirror when they entered the palace to face the saint. For a time, all the nobles in Chang'an were talking about mirrors, and many people sent housekeepers and merchants to King Zhao. The calm King Zhao was once again noisy because of the mirror. At this time, not only many businessmen came, but also many powerful people arrived in King Zhao, wanting to get the mirror as soon as possible. More and more people poured into King Zhao. And at this time Xiao Ming also received Xiao Wangsun's 800-mile rush. Your Highness, Your Majesty is so impatient this time. It can be seen that this mirror is more shocking than soap and perfume. Congratulations, Your Highness, His Highness. Pang Yukin bowed and raised his hand, smiling happily. Xiao Ming was a little helpless. This Pang Yukin has been staring at the Chamber of Commerce, and as soon as he has money, he will immediately transfer it to the treasury, which has become the Great Yu Kingdom version of Jelangte. Chapter 248. Beauty Smiles. People come and go in the Chamber of Commerce, as noisy as the Chinese New Year. In the face of Pang Yukin's congratulations, Xiao Ming felt a little helpless. He didn't know that firewood, rice, oil and salt were expensive now. As a vassal king, he felt one thing firsthand. The people wanted to live a good life. Soldiers and officials needed to pay salaries on time, build ships, build guns, and buy materials. There are many things on this land, big and small. It has nothing to do with silver. Without money, officials are reluctant to handle official duties, soldiers are reluctant to fight, and craftsmen in the workshop are even more lazy. From the perspective of a vassal king, loyalty to the monarch, patriotism, and peace and prosperity are just filing their stomachs. In the eyes of ordinary people at this time, he gradually came to his senses. Only with money in his pocket can he withstand the toss. If he did not engage in industry or make money at the beginning, he would just blindly expand the army. When the barbarians besieged King Zhao, I am afraid that they have no popular support, no artillery, and some are just a group of strong men who are dissatisfied with themselves and are ready to escape at any time with tattered weapons. At that time, I am afraid that they have no place to die. So in his heart, the string of commerce and trade has never been let go. With money and resources, only then can you be qualified to riot. Your congratulations are too precious. Xiao Ming could only answer Pang Yukin like this. After laughing lightly, Pang Yukin said solemnly, Your Highness, this is also to attract businessmen to settle in King Zhao to improve the appearance of King Zhao. The whole city of King Zhao needs to be paved with cement roads. This project is not small, and it can't be done without money. From the modern era to this era, Xiao Ming naturally has a relatively long-term vision, so the planning for King Zhao has already begun. Rather than waiting for the random construction of King's How to make up for it, as the saying goes, if you want to get rich, you must build roads first. Every rainy day, the muddy roads in King's How always make merchants and people miserable. Xiao Ming was even more unaccustomed to it, so he was going to start his first municipal project after crossing, building concrete roads and beautifying the city. The purpose of doing this is to improve people's livelihood, and the other is to attract businessmen from other places to settle down for a long time. At the same time, it is an obvious truth that large-scale construction is the fastest way to boost the local economy. In modern municipal roads, real estate has proved everything this time. A lot of money is scattered. One is the cost of materials, the other is the cost of labor, which will naturally fall into the hands of the common people. The two were talking when Li Kayun, who was sweating profusely, came in from outside the door at this time. Oh, these traitors who killed thousands of knives, seeing me is like seeing a thief. My clothes are about to be pulled off. Li Kayun said while complaining. Then he asked, His Royal Highness, now the merchants are asking when the auction will start. How to answer them? Don't worry, when is the time now? The real gold master hasn't come yet? Xiao Ming said, and he brightened. Xiao Wangsun's 800 miles in a hurry, so the mirror just spread in Chang'an City? Li Kayun asked. Xiao Ming nodded. And this king also wants to delay a little bit, so that Lu Tong and the others can produce more mirrors. This subordinate agrees. Pang Yukin is now following Xiao Ming, and he understands a lot. Li Kayun nodded. Xiao Ming continued, by the way, arrange for the merchant ship to send 10 more mirrors to Chang'an, and remember to give one of them to Fei Yuer. The princess has not yet entered, but His Highness is so caring. It can be seen that the last time His Highness Chang'an was very satisfied with the princess. Pang Yukin suddenly smiled when he heard the word. Xiao Ming recalled Fei Yuer's face, but he couldn't remember it anymore. But it is normal to give gifts to his fiancée in modern times. After all, it is for a harmonious life after marriage, he said. This king only met halfway. That's all. I sent the mirror to the past, just to add the icing on the cake. Li Kayun flattered and said, His Royal Highness is now outstanding, and now he has to welcome the return of beauty. It is really enviable. Although Xiao Ming is proud of the spring breeze, he has not lost his temper. He is still walking on thin ice. Facing Li Kayun's sugar-coated cannonballs, he glared at him and said, Less flattery, do more things, don't hurry up. Li Kayun nodded with a smile, and immediately squeezed out of the businessman. This time, Xiao Wangsun was in a hurry and asked about the mirror. The concubines in the harem liked the mirror very much, meaning that if there's any, I will send some more. Unlike fast consumables such as perfume and soap, Xiao Ming was naturally unwilling to send one to every concubine in the harem, so he decided to send some more to Xiao Wangsun. As for how Xiao Wangsun distributes it, it is his business. After all, Xiao Wangsun has sent 800 miles to Rush, and he has to give him face, otherwise the first mirror sent will be useless because it does not give face, and those concubines who couldn't get a mirror had to find a way to buy it with money. The merchants outside were still reluctant to leave, and Xiao Ming had someone release the news, and the auction would continue to be delayed for 10 days. On the other hand, he went directly to Bowen College, and he never slacked off when preparing for the auction for more than 10 days. He has been teaching Luo Xin to calculate the drop point of shells, and at the same time imparting basic navigation knowledge to Yu Yun and others. This course has to be continued, because Yu Yun still has very complicated things to teach. When the merchants in King's How were facing the mirror, another batch of mirrors arrived in Chang'an, and 9 mirrors were delivered to Xiao Wangsun, and a mirror was sent to the house in Fiji. Master, this is what King Qi sent in the Fei mansion. The butler carried a mirror covered with a black cloth and entered the mansion. When Fiji saw this thing, he immediately understood something, and he immediately said, Be careful, don't fall. The man from King's How put down the mirror and left, and the old butler didn't know what was in it, so he suddenly made a clever move. Master, what's in here? The housekeeper was surprised. Fiji stroked his beard and said, I'm afraid it's a mirror. After speaking, he pulled the black cloth down, and sure enough, a beautiful mirror appeared in front of him. Looking at himself in the mirror, Fiji's face showed a thick smile. He thought that King Qi was so careful that he could feel at ease when he gave his daughter to him. Then he said to the housekeeper, Go, give the mirror to the lady. The housekeeper nodded and immediately sent the mirror over. At this time, Fei Yuer was embroidering purses in her boudoir, and when she heard the movement outside, she asked Xiao Huan to open the door. At this time Fiji walked in, followed by the housekeeper. Father, what is this? Fei Yuer wondered. The black cloth was covered again, and Fiji said, Daughter, is this the mirror the King Qi gave you? Ah! Fei Yuer exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 249 Hot Auction. Zia Ahun covered her mouth and snickered, but Fei Yuer's face was covered with a red glow. What? Don't like it? Fiji sighed. In that case, give me this mirror, father. You are not the daughter's family. Fei Yuer blushed and said, in the Great Yu Kingdom, the man and the woman would basically not have contact before marriage, but Xiaoming sent the mirror as a gift this time, which was also ingenious. At the poetry meeting that day, she just glanced at Xiaoming and didn't dare to look again, but she already had an understanding of Xiaoming's appearance, and what was even more shocking to her was Xiaoming's ability to export into chapters. In the past 2 days, it was rumored that this mirror was magical in Chang'an City. I didn't expect Xiaoming to send one, which made her heart skip a beat. After all, this mirror is said to be extremely precious. Ha ha ha. Seeing Fei Yuer's shy look, Fiji laughed and said, Dad will not bother you when the mirror is delivered. With that said, Fiji left with a housekeeper. At this time, Zia Ahun stuck his head out and saw that Fiji was far away. He turned back and pulled the black cloth on the mirror violently down. Suddenly, Fei Yuer in a pink gown appeared in the mirror, looking prettier than who miss. Look, this is me. This mirror is really clear. Zia Ahun's face flushed with excitement. Fei Yuer was also a little shocked at this time. She walked to the mirror and looked at herself. Every frown and smile were reflected in the mirror, as if a real person was standing in the mirror. She exclaimed, this mirror really has a different response. No wonder it is so magical in Chang'an City. The mirror is small, and His Highness King Qi's intentions for the young lady are true. Zia Ahun suddenly laughed. Fei Yuer said angrily, Zia Ahun, let's see if I don't tear your mouth apart. The two suddenly started fighting. King Qi gave Fei Yuer a mirror, and the news spread among the nobles in Chang'an inadvertently. The next day, many ladies came to visit Fei Yuer. The mirror in the palace is so amazing, and they have no chance to see it. Now that there is one outside the palace, they can't help but run over to see what is going on in this. Look, the real effect of the mirror finally made these ladies and gentlemen tempted, and they sent people to Kingzhou one after another. At this time, the auction in Kingzhou has also entered the schedule. On this day, the Chamber of Commerce was controlled by the Kingzhou army. In order to prevent too many unnecessary people from mixing in the auction site, the Chamber of Commerce deliberately registered the auction 3 days ago, and the merchants who entered the auction must be able to give out at least 100,000 taels of silver. This threshold immediately discouraged some people who just entered the auction to join in the fun. Your Highness, a total of 3,000 people participated in the auction. This time the auction was about to start, when Li Keun told him the number of people. 3,000 people? It's just that there are more than that in Chang'an. It seems that there are still some people who haven't arrived. Let's start. Wait. Xiaoming said it took more than a month to prepare this mirror, and he couldn't wait any longer. Li Keun nodded, then walked to the stage and began to explain the auction rules to the participating auctioneers, and Xiaoming is hiding behind. He wants to show up for this kind of thing. Pang Yukin seemed even more nervous than Xiaoming at this time, because this would mean how much money the treasury could earn. After briefly introducing the rules of the auction, the servants moved the first batch of 30 mirrors to the stage and unfolded them one by one to the people below. Many people saw the real effect of the mirror for the first time, and immediately stood up and wanted to see what happened. Li Keun also deliberately let these people see the effect of the mirror clearly, and let people take the mirror and turn around among the people participating in the auction at this time. Exclamations continued to come from the crowd. Li Keun on the stage saw this scene and nodded with satisfaction. He continued, everyone must have seen this mirror. Only Kingzhou has it. There are no semicolons in other places, and you have also experienced the effect of this mirror. What is the value? You must have a calculation in your heart. Copper is money in the Great Yu Kingdom, and the price of a bronze mirror is already high. When they saw this glass mirror, they naturally knew that it must be much more expensive than a bronze mirror. Vice President Li, you can say a reserve price, said a businessman. This businessman participated in the last auction and knew that this auction had a reserve price. Li Keun said at this time, since you are so happy, I will say that the reserve price of this mirror is 3,000 taels. 3,000 taels. The people sitting below breathed a sigh of relief. The price was very expensive, but it was still within their acceptable range. Li Keun continued, then it's time for the auction. This mirror is cumbersome to manufacture, so now there are only 500 mirrors in Kingzhou. After this auction, the mirrors will be sold by the Kingzhou Chamber of Commerce to buy 3,100 taels, 3,200 taels. As soon as Li Keun's voice fell, the voice of the auction site suddenly came up and down, and many people couldn't wait. Many of them are characters dressed up as housekeepers. Their young lady told them to bring back the mirror. They didn't dare to slack off. 4,000 taels. The bidding round was higher than the round. Xiao Ming and Pang Yukan sat behind the auction booth of the Chamber of Commerce. Xiao Ming muttered, "The money for the 2 artillery pieces is here," and Pang Yukan said, "Higher." 3,000 people bid for 500 mirrors, that is, only 1 mirror can be brought back for every 6 people, this time coupled with the inconvenience of transportation and Dayu. Many people have the idea of buying mirrors back this time, so the bidding intensified. 6,500 taels, 7,000 taels, 8,000 taels. At the end of the first mirror, only a few wealthy businessmen were left to bid. Naturally, they did not buy it for themselves, but planned to take the mirror and give it to the dignitaries in the DPRK. 1,000 taels, another voice sounded, and no one followed the price at this time. At this level, the price of mirrors has been raised very high, and there are many mirrors behind. Some people are lucky enough to think that they can get it cheaper. It's just that the more they go, the more they find that the price of the mirror is getting higher and higher, because this mirror is auctioned for 1, and there is 1 less. The second mirror was auctioned for 11,000 taels behind the auction stage. Pang Yukan's face flushed with excitement, and he said to Xiao Ming, "The plaster of the people's fat and people's fat that these dignitaries searched for is finally spit out here. No, this king has the right to act for heaven." Xiao Ming laughed when he heard this. Li Bai Shiyan, Jinzan and Sik are worth 10,000 yuan, and jade plates are worth 10,000 yuan. This describes the luxurious life of the dignitaries in the Tang dynasty. A meal is worth 10,000 yuan. It is the same in the Great Yu Kingdom. 1,000 taels of silver is normal. The common people often eat bran and swallow vegetables. This is all because of the endless exploitation of the common people by the aristocrats and merchants of the Great Yu Kingdom, especially the local aristocrats. The extreme gap between the rich and the poor makes the wealth of the Great Yu country concentrated on these people, so Xiao Ming has no guilt at all for selling a mirror whose actual value is only 3 taels of silver at such a high price. Chapter 250 Return to Kang's Hao. As the number of mirrors is getting smaller and smaller, the atmosphere of the auction is getting hotter. There was a lot of bidding on the spot, and 500 mirrors were auctioned off one by one. The merchants who bought the mirrors would get a small wooden plaque. At that time, they would pay the money at the Chamber of Commerce with a wooden plaque and take the mirrors away. 16,000 taels, 16,500 taels. The auction continued from the morning to the afternoon. At the end of the 500 mirrors, there was only 1 left. At this time, the voice of bidding became louder and louder. 1,000, 7,000 taels, 18,000 taels, 20,000 taels. When the last voice was finalized, the auction scene fell silent, and all the mirrors in this auction were sold out. Li Keitun laughed so hard that his teeth could not see his eyes. The 500 mirrors brought at least 6 or 7 million taels of income to the Chamber of Commerce this time. He also knew the cost of these mirrors. Among all the commodities in King's Hao, mirrors are truly a huge profit. At the end of the auction, all the people on the scene left, either complacent or sighing. 500 people who auctioned off the mirror stayed behind, and at this time, they took the wooden sign to Li Keitun to get the mirror because this mirror is only 10,000 or 20,000 silver. These merchants mostly buy silver bills, silver, or gold directly, but few merchants use goods to offset it. It's not a block trade after all. When it was time to collect the money, the people in the Chamber of Commerce immediately got busy, counting the silver taels, carrying the silver taels, and handing over the mirrors to the auctioneer. It was busy until the evening when the auction really ended. At this time, Pang Yukan and Xiao Ming appeared, looking at the gold, silver and silver bills and other items in the place, and the two laughed contentedly. The money in the treasury was abundant again this time. His Royal Highness, the transaction amount this time has been counted. This is the account book, you can take a look. Li Keitun said to Xiao Ming, holding an account book. Xiao Ming opened it and looked at it. It recorded the records of each auction transaction, a total of 500 records, and a total of 7.2 million taels were written on the back of the account book. 7,200,000 taels. Pang Yukan's beard trembled and his face was full of smiles. These 7.2 million taels were enough for Xiao Ming to carry out several major projects. Xiao Ming nodded with satisfaction and said, "Send these silvers into the treasury and spend them together." "Yes, Your Highness." Li San responded and immediately called the soldiers outside to escort Yin Lian to the treasury in the King's Hao government office, where the King's Hao government treasury was located. All the tax revenue of the Great Yu Kingdom is here, and the money earned by the Chamber of Commerce not only leaves a part of the turnover, but also basically arrives here, and the government pays it according to the conditions of each state. Once the auction was over, Xiao Ming was relieved. 7,200,000 taels was enough for him to build another 20 or 30 gallon ships, but obviously he can't give all the money to the army. A large part of this money must be invested in the people's livelihood of the 6 states, making money with money moreover, as his stall grows larger. There are more and more places to spend money. For example, in this Bowen College, for those admitted to Bowen College, all board and lodging are free. This is also to allow poor scholars to devote themselves to their studies without worrying about a future. After all, Bowen College is the core talent export destination that will drive the development of Qingzhou in the future. After leaving the Chamber of Commerce, Xiao Ming did not go through the main entrance of the palace this time, but entered through the side door because he knew that at this time, there must be many people outside the door asking for advice and wanting to discuss the mirror with him. However, he made up his mind that this mirror would not sell the right to sell it like perfume soap. At that time, he made a lot of money, but for his monopoly business, it was a loss. It took about 10 days for the mirror thing to fade away in Qingzhou. At this time, the Chamber of Commerce officially began to sell mirrors. The businessmen who stayed in Qingzhou immediately flocked to the Chamber of Commerce, but many were blocked from the door. Chamber of Commerce members are given priority. Li Keun explained to a group of businessmen the membership system of the Chamber of Commerce has been running, and now the number of members in the Chamber of Commerce has reached thousands, and these people will get discounts in terms of speed and price when picking up goods in Qingzhou. Moreover, some members of the Chamber of Commerce have already considered the issue of settling in Qingzhou. After all, they bought members with a huge amount of silver taels, and only when they settled in Qingzhou could they always get the information of the Chamber of Commerce. For example, this mirror. These members visited the mirror before the trade fair. Many conveniences made them gradually recognize their membership. Li Keun said this, and some members of the Chamber of Commerce showed a proud smile. Among the crowd, they seemed to be higher. Some businessmen who have not joined the Chamber of Commerce began to hesitate to join the membership. The expressions of the businessmen were seen by Li Keun, and he smiled secretly in his heart. All of this was in Xiao Ming's plan. The commercial center of the Great Yu Kingdom was gradually shifting to Qingzhou and Qiwangfu. Xiao Ming has long stopped thinking about the 7 million taels of silver. In his eyes, these products are really pure low-end products. The only thing is that this mirror has some technical content, but this was far from what he was after. Qingzhou's industry is only in its infancy, and there will be more products with higher technology content coming out one after another. These commodities are produced by the talents cultivated in Bowen College, and his current task is to engage in several major projects, one of which is the reinforced concrete city wall of Qingzhou. During this time, Zhan Xingcheng has been preparing building materials in Qingzhou, and the steel workshop has also been producing steel bars. Now the conditions are in place, only construction is needed. The news that Wang Zhuan brought the barbarians to study artillery really made Xiao Ming very worried. Before Shanhaiguan was broken, Qingzhou was just a small city. It wasn't until the barbarians came and that Niu Ben led people to build a city wall. In fact, the city wall was not very strong later. The strengthening of Zhan Xingcheng was only to increase the firing position of the artillery, and the city wall was still not much strengthened. If the barbarians really come with artillery, this city wall is really dangerous. At least the city gate is easily penetrated by artillery shells. Therefore, after the supply of silver taels this time, he not only sent tens of thousands of slaves, but also allocated silver taels to hire local people in Qingzhou to participate in the construction of the city wall. This is also to compete for time with the barbarians, because with the national strength of the barbarians, if you really find a craftsman who understands artillery skills, I am afraid that it is only a matter of time to produce artillery. Based on this situation, Xiao Ming planned to personally go to Qingzhou to arrange the construction of the new city wall outside the palace. Zhuan had already prepared a carriage for Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming arrived at the door and instructed, the textile mill must not be slack, and when the king returns, he must see the sails. Aster nodded and said, Your Highness, you have to be careful when you go to Qingzhou. After all, he looked at Niu Ben, Lu Fei, Luo Zin, and the 2,000 cavalry. After capturing a lot of war horses from the barbarians last time, Qingzhou's cavalry has expanded a lot again. It's just that Aster is not thinking about this, but she thinks that Xiao Ming's visit to Qingzhou is not just for the city wall. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.